living evil. A dark and shapeless thing that lives not in the spaces that we know, but between them. In the dark. In the night. Now listen carefully, because there isn't much time. Listen and believe.
Hauntcast.
Radio for haunters and Halloween fanatics.
Clench your jewels and hang on for your life.
Welcome back to the dungeon, me minions. Hauntcast is radio for haunters and Halloween fanatics, oozing with haunt tips, tricks, tactics, news, reviews, how-tos, interviews, and lots of booze. And now for the man who recently enlisted in the Peace Corps. It's our G-host, Baker.
Welcome back, my fiendish followers. Thanks for joining us for another monstrous mess of murderous mayhem.
Oh, save it for the trick-or-treaters.
It is Hauntcast's Halloween Hootenanny Spooktacular. Don't just stand there. Enter our diabolical dungeon of disarray. Scully and I are putting the finishing touches on the dungeon. This year, instead of creating a haunt outside for the kiddies, we've decided to give them a real treat and set the haunt up inside the dungeon. Basically, we've had little to no work to do except for wrangling all the ghouls, goblins, and monsters into their cells, hiding places, and scare zones to terrify the unsuspecting tots.
Hey, Baker, before the kids arrive, I think you should give our 3 listeners the 911 on this train wreck of a podcast.
Scully, I think you mean the 411?
No, I mean 911. As I'm sure we will be breaking some decency laws and probably spreading hate speech or some such nonsense.
There definitely will be some hate speech. Mostly directed at you and the rest of the Scream team. Exhibit A. With one foot in the grave and his other foot in another grave, Revenant wheels his gurney onto the stage to deliver theater of the mind. Haunt actor at the Bates Motel, Johnny Bubba Thunder will work the Q line, as well as the R&S line, before hobbling into the last bar on the left to review Animalistic, Hotel Transylvania 3, The Church, and E-Demons. Hey fellas, she's newly back on the market. You can check out her profile on mousemingle.com. Our Mistress of Mayhem has truly outdone herself, and this will be the absolute best charmed pot ever, as Mom calls in sick.
Yeah, sick of working on this show.
Actually, she says she's extremely busy.
Yeah, extremely busy trashing her ex-husband on Facebook.
While one of our Scream Team members goes back on the market, this one comes off the market. Newly engaged Wick Ed Gannon from Dark Hour Haunted House serves up something wicked.
Yeah, a marriage license. Get a prenup, my brother.
You know, we don't focus enough on costume creation, so our haunting guru guest will be cosplay costumer, prop master, and YouTube sensation, Evil Ted Smith from the Evil Ted Show.
Groovy.
No, not Evil Dead, Evil Ted.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Oh, but speaking of the Evil Dead, I will be hopping into the Delta and road tripping to Kansas, so I can kick back on the front porch of the Doleshal's authentic replica Evil Dead cabin and talk about the build with Don and Steve. Scully will be joined by Simon Cowell and myself to judge Hauntcast Idol. We are on the lookout for the next Scream Team member to host a new segment called The Darkest Web. That's right, kids. You can help choose the next Hauntcast Idol coming up. Now, many of you listening are probably regulars that have dialed in over the past 9 years. Well, even if you're a newbie, Hauntcast needs your help. The show costs money to make and to run, and we need your support to help keep putting out podcasts and videos. I mean, over the past few months, for podcast hosting, web hosting, security, bandwidth, site construction, etc., I have dropped nearly $1,000 out of pocket. So please support us at patreon.com/Hauntcast and do what you can. Oh, and before I forget, if you're a Patreon subscriber of $10 a month or more, at the end of the show, I'll be giving away a DC Props spinner mechanism. Hey, Skelly, our first victims are here. I'll get the door.
Trick or treat?
Welcome to the dungeon, kiddies. What? No, shit. Wait, what the hell? Skelly, they didn't even come inside. They didn't even see any of the props or actors or anything.
Baker, maybe you should put some pants on.
Oh, shit. I'm so used to recording without pants on, I completely forgot. Well, I mean, it's not like I'm buck naked or anything.
Obviously. You didn't hear them laughing in your face, did you?
So the tighty whities are a little scary?
It's not the tighty whities that scared the shit out of them. What's truly terrifying is the fact that you're wearing brown dress socks with Tevas.
Fine. I'll go put some pants on. Scully, you fire up the old Victrola and let's play some deep cuts from Buzzworks' album House of Nightmares. And my interview with Evil Ted Smith is dead ahead.
Hauntcast.
Dead time.
having a homemade animatronic mechanism break free and injure your haunt guests is the wrong kind of scary.
Purchase your haunt mechanisms from DCProps.com with high-quality craftsmanship, fast turnaround, unique and original designs with superior customer service. DC Props' long-lasting props and mechanisms will scare your haunt guests the right way. Go to DCProps.com for the right kind of scary.
By the pricking of my thumbs.
Welcome, Haunters. I'm your host, Ed Gannon, professional haunter, Something Wicked Productions, and in this episode of Something Wicked, we'll talk about how to change your show for Halloween night. And I'll spill some of the show stories outsiders are never supposed to hear. Now, changing your show for Halloween night may sound redundant, as many home haunts are only open that one night or a few nights, but most pro haunts are open much longer. Many open at the end of September for light weekends, then more nights as it gets closer to October 31st. Many haunts are open that whole last week or 2 weeks, and a few are open all 31 days of October. Wow, right? That's what the old spooky world used to do when it was still on a farm in Berlin, Massachusetts. Open every night in October.
And the first thing I did was change the route. I had the ride go through my neighborhood. My spooky world. They come from miles around now, thinking it won't be so bad. Maybe it'll be romantic.
If something broke or needed maintenance, you had to do it or fix it during the day before the show, and often after staying up late the night before. Still, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I'll speak about Old Spooky throughout this show, and especially since we did some very special things for the night of Halloween. Now, as this show hits during October, let me start by saying, Happy Halloween!
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween to worship.
If you're working a show, this means you've probably already opened, and to that I'll say congratulations. What a Herculean effort that can be for some of us, just to open. And yet, it always seems to get done. Most of the time, it's because key people push themselves very hard past injuries, exhaustion, weariness, perhaps financial hardships, bad eating habits, trying to make something physical out of an idea, maybe without the necessary tools or supplies. And some do all this while still working a regular day job and then haunting or setting up at night. We've all been there. I know I have. Hell, I still am. My point is, haunting is not for pussies. Excuse my language. With all the work, effort, endurance, patience, and all the rest of it that goes into the shows that we love, we could use a little something special too. We do all this so guests can come, hopefully, and pay to see these shows. See the creations you have built. Enjoy them. Get scared. Release some tension they can't really let go anywhere else. And leave with stories and smiles. But as I said, it's a lot of work. At the end of the month, when the big holiday arrives, most are as excited as little kids, but also ready for it to be over. Everything has a season. I put it to you. Help close out your season with a bang. Something to make the night of Halloween stand out from the rest of the month or the rest of your shows. Make Halloween night different for your guests and your staff.
Dress up like a victim of a guillotine. What are you going to be for Halloween?
Here's an example. For Halloween night, I would change all the soundtracks in all 6 haunted houses, hayride, and museums. For the actors, it was a breath of fresh air. What cast member can't sing, hum, or anticipate every musical note in the music or mimic every sound effect in your soundtrack by the end of October? And while it was great for the staff, the guests came to love it just as much. some coming back on Halloween just to see all the changes. Some guests come more than once during a season, and as any haunt owner will tell you, that is the secret to longevity in this business. This can be one way to help boost that total. Keep in mind, unless you are in a very busy tourist area like, say, Salem, Massachusetts, believe it or not, Halloween is not the busiest night of the year.
Trick or treat!
Trick or treat. There you go.
There are kids trick-or-treating, people staying home to give out candy, or parents of trick-or-treaters staying home, not to mention all the Halloween parties. Oh, make sure your staff agrees to be there for Halloween night before you hire them. Now, the people that do show up on Halloween, however, see it as a magical night, filled with possibilities, frights, fun, and the unknown. And they expect not only just to get as good a show as they may have gotten the weekend before, but an even better show, because it's Halloween. Give it to them. I mean, it's Halloween night, for crying out loud. Do what you can to make your staff have fun too. If they're here tonight, working hard as they have all October, they deserve it. Now, I'm not going to say that some of the stories and examples I'm about to relay to you are something I endorse, or right for your attraction, but perhaps you can take their spirit and incorporate it into your show. I already mentioned changing soundtracks. I've done this for almost every haunt I've ever had the privilege to run. In Foxborough, Massachusetts, Spooky World, we had the 3D Disco Haunted House. The normal soundtrack was warped 70s hits, mostly. But Halloween, it was real disco music. Everyone boogied right on through until the ghost put them right on the floor. Then once an hour, Zachary would come on with Everyone Wears Leisure Suits in Hell.
When I hit rock bottom, a light flashed overhead, and what I saw before me made me wish that I was dead. Everyone wears leisure suits in hell. Great big disco collars and those platform shoes as well. They languish and they fester in eternal polyester, because everyone wears leisure suits in hell.
Fun, light, and a laugh to switch it up a bit. Most of the other haunts were still appropriately scary, but completely different. I never used the same old familiar songs you would hear on any Drew's famous CDs, but this night I made an exception. Spread throughout the park, each of the houses had a couple of standards, like the theme to Halloween. Toccata in Fugue. Exorcist theme. The Omen. Even a rocker or two. You get the idea. And they changed the entire mood of the house, right at the end of the season when we needed the most. A much more unorthodox tradition was born one Halloween when part of our celebrity guests, we had a MASH reunion. You know, the TV show? And I can take or leave it. Jamie Farr as Corporal Klinger, you may remember, was always dressing up in drag to get a Section 8 and get thrown out of the war. It never worked, but many funny outfits were worn by Jamie in the show. When General MacArthur was supposed to visit the MASH unit, he drove by Klinger in a Statue of Liberty outfit. we drove our celebrities to the signing area in golf carts. And sure enough, when he comes in that night, one of the denizens of the Elvira's Nightmare Haunted House was dressed as the Statue of Liberty, complete with a sparkler on the torch, razor stubble and all. He almost died laughing, and so did all of us. As a tribute, the entire Elvira house cross-dressed that night, and during a break, we walked the entire crew over to the celebrity area to get a photo with the cast of MASH. Mr. Farr was very touched, and I'm sure he still remembers that night at Spooky World. To be honest, who could forget it? Now, every year after that, however, the cast of that house did it again. Ever tried to put a 6-foot, 5-inch tall, 340-pound bearded man in a French maid's outfit? Don't. That's my advice. Ladies with fake beards, the whole bit. It was so weird because you just didn't expect it, and became one of the underground Spooky World things that guests would talk about. On Halloween, since we were not slammed with 10,000 guests a night, we could shut down queue lines for one house at a time and give them a small break. Get some hot cocoa, hot food, sit down and share some stories. The Fang-friendly food, which we chipped in and provided during the month, was a potluck for Halloween, and there was always someone trying to outcook you. Everybody wins. During one of these breaks, back in the early days of Spooky World, one of the Phantom Mineshaft's undead miners snuck into the back of the clown house and borrowed one of the props and took it to the mineshaft for ransom. This began what would become known as the scavenger hunt. Now, I had a strict rule about guests never seeing a character from one theme in another show, so they had to be crafty. But this is what they do, sneak around. Good practice, because they not only had to keep out of sight of guests, but from me as well. Things got a little carried away one year when they started taking hostages for one house and making them work in that house until retrieved. Nope, that had to stop. Sometime during the month, we would have one house go through another one to see the show as guests, usually early in the month on a slower night. This gave everyone a good perspective and appreciation of the role of each theme and their place in it. For Halloween, I would pick 2 houses, take all the actors, and switch them. This needed to be done as quickly as possible, as the managers of each attraction would stay to show all the newbies how everything worked. They would stay there for 1 hour. Guests would only see this during Halloween night. Cold, dark mineshaft filled with classic clowns, 3D haunted house filled with huge undead mine workers, wacky but fun too, and the energy the actors exhibited, being able to stretch and try new techniques in a different environment, was amazing. The next hour, I would switch 2 more.
To receive them. We went to a couple with 2 of Hollywood's horror actresses. People are getting the yell scared out of them at Spooky World in Massachusetts. We weren't brave enough to experience this Halloween haunt ourselves, so we persuaded Scream Queen Linnea Quigley to take us through.
Where are you guys taking me?
Don't worry.
No.
Almost everyone came to the show to have a good time, but there's always a few rotten apples in the bunch. On Halloween, and I'm not saying how they got them, but all the clowns one year had water-filled squirt guns in their scare spots, only to be used for those very nasty patrons, you know the ones. It is mighty cold in late October in New England, just saying. Obviously, all the non-acting staff was able to dress up for Halloween. Very creative people, too. They could wear anything that was appropriate. We were a family park after all, and as long as they could still do their job effectively. We'll just leave that there. Lastly, it was Halloween for me, too. So, if everything was working fine, I could gear up and do some walk-around acting and queue line entertainment myself. I had a bunch of premium costumes, which we usually had someone in, to choose from. One year, we were very short on the hayride. It was one of the last years we had it at the Foxborough location. I told the actors if they could stay out there and give each other breaks instead of leaving their sets, I would come out and break each set myself, and that would always leave one person unable to go otherwise. So that night, I grabbed a bunch of costumes, several cake makeups, and some cream sticks, and headed out to the hayride. Starting after the first hour, I was able to get into the appropriate costume for the scene with the right makeup and go nuts in one of the roles for each scene. Many of these actors had never seen me perform as they were stuck out on the trail and not in the houses or on the grounds. I made sure I was the most energetic, in guest's face, heard over the tractor's trail actor in each scene. Many were quite surprised, in a good way. That made my night, let me tell you. Then I would disappear when the actor came back from break, go change, fix or change my makeup, and get to the next scene within 10 to 15 minutes. That's 5 to 7 wagons, because we ran them every 2 minutes. By the end of the night, I had hit every single set, and everyone got a break, and there were 9 different sets on that trail. I was one tired monkey, let me tell you, but you couldn't get the smile off my face with a crowbar. And that's what I wish for you and your crew this Halloween. That smile, that gratitude for having the opportunity to haunt this year. It never gets old. And the coolest thing is it's contagious. If guests experience haunters doing what they do for the right reasons and get that fun, that energy, they take as much of that home with them as they give back to us. Here's to a safe, prosperous, and happy Halloween. Look at the time. I gotta wrap up this segment. But in future episodes, we will talk about more aspects of professional haunting, their methods, philosophies, how-tos, and so much more. But I see our moments here are up, so until the next time, be safe. This is Ed Gannon, www.somethingwickedproductions.com, saying, have a wicked day.
Watch out. Don't turn around. There may be something behind you.
This is the dungeon, home of Hauntcast. 5 minutes from now, an unknown talent on this very stage will be launched into stupor stardom. We don't know who that is yet. They could be cleaning the toilets, selling nickel bags on the corner, or trolling Baker on Twitter. One thing we do know is that by the end of this bit, their life will be changed forever. Probably for the worst. Our panel of judges will decide who becomes the next Hauntcast Idol. Let me introduce our panel of judges. Known for his blunt and controversial comments, Baker hired him just because of the word blunt. Reality television judge Simon Cowell. Resident Masshole and G-host of Hauntcast, Baker. And because Gannon and Terhune don't have time to waste with these nonsensical 2-bit comedy routines, and I use the word comedy loosely, your third judge is me, podcaster sidekick and professional agitator, Scully O'Toole. Let's bring out the first contestant. She spends most of her time on Halloween forum It's Halloween Cat Lady. So give us a sample of your segment. Baker, what's your thoughts?
Honestly, I think she might be a little too talented for our program. And since I don't want to be upstaged, I say no.
The whole thing was just atrocious.
She's throwing cats at us. Security! Next up we have JJ. Looks like JJ's had some podcast experience in the past. Give us a sample of what your segment would sound like.
Friday, October 8th is going to be the second annual Bring the Fear to Navy Pier Zombie March. That's where you're going to be able to go out there, go to Navy Pier down in the Chicagoland area, dress up as a zombie, and have a crazy march.
Hey, JJ, you can stop right there. Crazy march. Man, I think we've heard enough. Simon, what do you think?
I thought it was a terrible audition. Yeah. I mean, really annoying, to the point I actually couldn't hear anymore. So, for me, I didn't like it at all.
Our third contestant has some hot acting experience. Let's bring in Joni Thunderstein. Okay, Joni, let's hear what you got.
You got it, darling. My name's Joni Thunderstein. I'm here to... Oh, wait, I dropped my script. I dropped my script. And, oh, no, my wig. Oh, shit. Oh, my balls. My balls. All I wanted was more showtime.
Scully, I'm not sure, but I think that was JT.
No shit, Sherlock. If there are any other contestants out there, come on in. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Mariah, and my car broke down outside. I don't seem to have any cell reception. Can I use your phone?
Hey, your voice isn't half bad. Can you write and record an 8 to 10 minute segment about Halloween stuff bi-monthly and make sure it doesn't suck?
I guess.
Fantastic! I dub you Morbid Mariah. And guess what? You're going to the Netherrealm, as you are the next Hauntcast Idol.
Okay, so can I use your phone, or?
Well, that's gonna do it this time for Hauntcast Idol. Join us next episode as we throw someone off the show. Scully out.
One ring.
That's a telephone. I'll answer it.
No, I must count them.
Yeah,
two rings.
I have to answer the phone there.
No, I'm counting the rings. Three rings.
Hauntcast Bone Phone.
In March, if you see these guys stumbling around St. Louis with a giant backpack on, it's not filled with props and supplies. It's filled with cases upon cases of Bud Light. On the Bone Phone, I have the maniacs that created a life-size replica of the Evil Dead cabin. It's Don and Steve Doleshal. What's up, boys?
How you doing, Baker?
Hey.
Hey, man. Thanks for having us on. We're huge fans, and it's an honor to be on the show.
The honor's all on your side of the table. No. You thought I was going to say the other thing. No, anyway, I talk to you guys every year. They were in St. Louis. We end up running into you guys, and we end up spending a lot of time with you guys. I don't know what we talk about or what we do, but
it keeps it fresh every year when you don't remember anything from the year before.
Yeah, it seems like we have a good time hanging out. So
yeah, I have that general impression left over.
We'll just keep going with that. All right, so now you know what? I just ended up clicking on your YouTube profile. Do you guys are both divers?
Yeah, my dad actually. Our dad runs a commercial dive company, and that's kind of how we got into it. He got us started young, and we do a lot of work at power plants and going down and fixing whatever they need fixing that's below water. Basically, that's our day job.
And your night job is selling dime bags on the corner. No, it's your night. Pushing, making the statutes work.
Yeah.
When did you build the Evil Dead cabin? Was it last year or the year before that?
It was last year. We started building it last mid to late August is when we got our pieces from the original cabin that kind of inspired us to build it, and that's when we started building it, which left us only a little bit less than 2 months before our event is kind of a one-night Halloween party event. Basically a big display in our two barns and then a hayride. And so we built the cabin inside one of these barns, and we had to work quick. I wouldn't even have thought it was possible. I was thinking about it maybe for next year, but Steve kind of talked me into it that we should try it, and we survived. We barely we got there. It's still not 100% movie accurate. There's always going to be a little bit more we can do to make it a little bit more perfect, like it was in the movie. But we got it pretty damn close. It was party ready by mid-October.
You got a piece of the original cabin, which was from the first or the second movie?
From the second movie. We'd always wanted to build a cabin that was from Evil Dead 2. To us, that's our favorite one of the trilogy. It's kind of Bruce Campbell calls it a requel. It's like the remake of the second one with more money and better special effects. And we've loved that movie ever since we were kids. We happened to, it was around 4th of July last year, somebody posted on one of the haunt pages on Facebook that somebody was selling a piece of that original cabin on eBay. And it's the biggest surviving piece. It's the gable end, the big triangular piece from one end of the cabin. And we said, what the hell? We'll see if we can get it. We ended up getting it. And then when we went to pick it up, the guy had a bunch more stuff. So we ended up also we got one original window frame from the cabin, an original pair of shutters, A lot of the tin roofing for the roof kind of overhangs the front porch. Most of that tin roofing is original. We had to, of course, find more to do the rest of the roof to make it look right. And then let's see, we got like a 55-gallon drum that Ash trips over at one point in the movie, and a few odds and ends, like some pieces of where he has to bury his girlfriend Linda. If you notice in the movie, he's not digging through dirt; it's like a pit of coal. We got some pieces of that coal. They did some stuff to some of the trees in front of the cabin to make them look evil, like they were coming to life, and they actually used expanded spray foam. They covered it in, and we got some big hunks of that. But that gable end part of the cabin is definitely our biggest piece, and once we got that's when we knew we had to put it into an actual cabin.
Where did they shoot the second movie?
They shot the second movie in Wadesboro, North Carolina, and they actually most of the outside shots were filmed. They added on to a cabin that was already there, but most of the interior shots they also rebuilt the same sets inside of an old high school in the area. So what we have is a piece of the actual cabin that was out in the woods. It actually, in 2014, everything got knocked down by a microburst. And the guy that owned the place, he didn't know anything about Evil Dead and didn't really seem to care that much about it. He was going to bulldoze everything so he could go through and clear cut all the trees. But the guy that we bought our stuff from found out about that, and he talked the guy into letting him go in and take everything out of there that he possibly could to save it. And that guy's name was Mike Pasquale. So he deserves some credit for going in there and kind of working his butt off and saving as much of this stuff as he could. And then I guess he didn't really have the space for all of it, so he sold off a few bits and pieces.
So he kept some himself and sold some to you and a few other maniacs.
Right? Yeah. He kept the prime pieces for himself, and he may have sold some more since then. I think the main thing that he had was the entire work shed. Where Ash builds his chainsaw arm and cuts off Linda's head. The really pivotal location in the scene is he saved that whole thing and kind of rebuilt a frame so that he could take it to different horror conventions and set it up, and people would pay to come, take a selfie with it. He had a picture of himself with Bruce Campbell in front of it, which just freaking blows my mind.
Nice.
But I believe since then he sold that off to somebody else. But
okay.
But yeah.
He had his fun with it. He had his way with it and just tossed it away.
Yeah, I got the feeling like maybe his wife wasn't too happy with the Evil Dead stuff taking up the whole garage and everything, and I think that might have been what kind of made him want to start selling stuff.
Now, whose farm is it on, and whose barn is it in?
It's actually our parents have 30 acres. In Gardner, Kansas, and we started out in a one barn that's 100 feet by 60 feet. Kind of outgrew that, built another one right next to it, and that is where we built the Evil Dead cabin and a few other sets that we're building. And we plan to in the future maybe build our own version of the work shed to put next to the cabin, and maybe even get a replica of the car that Bruce drove in the movie to have parked out in front of the cabin. We think that'd be cool if we could find one.
Now, how accurate is the cabin?
As accurate as we can get it. They used two different scenes for the movie. They built one in a high school gym, and then they used a lot of the exterior shots from the cabin that was actually out in the woods. So you had to kind of hit a happy medium between the two of them. But it's as accurate as we can get it. We have some floor plans we got offline, and the doors are all spaced correctly. The dimensions are all spaced correctly. So.
Yeah, it was kind of rough when we slowly figured out that the interior sets that they built in that school gymnasium were bigger. I guess they wanted more room for filming inside, so we were trying to figure out. We knew we had the size of the original cabin, so we were trying to figure out why aren't things quite fitting the way they should. Like where there should have been a full-size couch, we could only fit a love seat, smaller type of couch. And we eventually figured out because the original cabin, the exterior shots are actually smaller, and then the one where they did most of the interior shots, they had built a bigger set. So we had to kind of figure that out. But we know that our exterior is the exact same dimensions as the original cabin, and we even went through kind of a lot of work. If you look in the movie, the roof is kind of sagging in the middle. It's supposed to look old, like it's been there for a while. So we had to do some kind of some fancy woodwork to make our roof also sag like that.
Which was way harder than building it correctly.
Yeah. So much. Yeah, so much.
Cutting those angles and figuring that out, it's a pain in the balls.
Yeah.
Right.
So the interior, as far as like tables and all that kind of shit. How did you do the hearth?
We built a wooden frame of, we took so many screenshots from the movie that it's basically like every other frame in the movie we've got a screenshot of to kind of figure out how big that was supposed to be. So the interior of the fireplace is all wood, but we painted it to make it look like it's concrete on the bottom. We've got it looks like a burning fire in there, and then the chimney on the outside, that was another hard part because nobody really had very good dimensions on that, and there weren't a whole lot of good angles on it in the movie to figure out, because it starts a certain size at the bottom and then kind of curves in, and that took a lot of doing, and we still have to put some rock on the outside of that to make it perfect. Right now it's just kind of covered in like a concrete, thin concrete covering, so that's not 100% yet. But and then as far as we spent a lot of time online just Googling things, trying to find the exact right table that there's a reel-to-reel tape recorder that they press that kind of starts all the badness in the movie. We've got the exact reel-to-reel tape recorder,
nice.
But the table that we've got it sitting on isn't quite right, so we're still working on that. We there's a floor lamp that we had to find the exact right kind. We were able to find the exact kind of bookcase that they had on the wall, which we thought was pretty funny. I think we found that at an auction. And then
what about
there's like a sorry.
What about the Necronomicon? Did you make that? Did you make a version of it?
We didn't make it. I already had a who was it? Trick or Treat Studios that for a few years has been putting out a pretty good replica of what the outside looks like. Mm-hmm. But I've got a guy right now, I should have it within a couple of weeks, is making me one that you actually open it up and he's redone the art of the pages from the movie.
No shit.
And going to age out the pages. That way we'll have one you actually open it up and it's just like the one from the movie. And also, we got the Kandarian dagger that kind of comes in is important towards the end of the movie. That's what they want to try to use to kill the evil, and it doesn't quite work out. But we've got a pretty good replica of that also,
awesome.
Kind of sitting on the desk there. And we were able to I kind of ripped the audio out of the certain parts of the movie and was able to record it onto that reel-to-reel tape, which is a new thing for me. I'd never messed with anything like that, and it was kind of an old machine and didn't want to work, but we finally got that going, so it sounds legit when you play it, and it looks good,
That is kick-ass. Now, I worked in radio back in the 90s, as digital was just starting to come into play, and everybody was still working on reel-to-reel, so I cut my teeth on splicing out tape, and you have to splice it and then cut. Oh my god, I couldn't even imagine having to go through. Hauntcast would not exist if I had to go back in time. No friggin' way. Just wouldn't happen. That is killer. So you've got the reel to reel, you've got the dagger, you've got the Necronomicon. Do you have a deer head, like a crazy deer head for the fireplace? Or was it above the fireplace, or was it on the wall? Yeah.
Right above the fireplace on the wall. And we have a taxidermy deer head that's real creepy looking and everything, kind of as a placeholder for now. I've got some plans on how to. I've never been able to find anybody that's built one that actually moves and will open its mouth like the one in the movie. I found somebody that said they were working on it.
Now there's a guy. He was actually probably my first interview on Hauntcast, Dave Lindblom he doesn't own Haunt Forum anymore. He sold it off. Sell out. No. He had made one. I was at a make and take years ago when within the first year or so of Hauntcast, and I went to a make and take, and he had his version of it, and it laughed. It wasn't amazingly animated, but it was animated. The head did move. I think the mouth moved a little bit, and he got the MP3, or he ripped the laugh from the movie, and it was pretty crazy. Like I say, if you find him on Facebook, hit him up and ask him if he maybe he has some advice on how to make it, or who knows, maybe it's for sale, maybe he'll sell it to you.
I will definitely do that, because that's going to be, when we get that right, that'll probably be kind of the centerpiece of the cabin, because everybody's favorite scene from the movie is the one where Ash is kind of going crazy and all the the deer head and everything in the cabin starts coming to life and laughing at him. And you got the gooseneck lamp kind of moving around. We want to have that eventually. I'm not sure how exactly we're going to do it. The lamp is kind of jarring around and moving, and then you got the deer head turning towards him and laughing at him, and its eyes kind of go white. And we want to be able to do all of that eventually. But right now, what we're working on is the part where Henrietta comes out of the cellar as the old lady who's turned into a deadite, and they've got it kind of chained up as she's trying to push her way out. We've got Henrietta in there. We've only got like a foot or so to work with because it's not actually a real cellar. But so last year we just had her head and hands there, and we had the sound effects going saying "Let me out." But I just got my shipment from Fright Props a few days ago for all the stuff I think we're going to need to get that cellar door jarring up and down, in sync with the music and everything. So actually seems like she's trying to escape. So hopefully that'll be our topper for this year.
They didn't have a real cellar underneath that cabin either. I think they just dug out like a few feet or something. So anyway, but that is unbelievable. So yeah, once again, work in progress. You guys got a little bit more to do. To your guests, do people really know the movie enough? Like when your guests show up, are they like, oh, this is amazing, or do they just go, oh, this is kind of cool? They don't really know the reference to the movie, or do they get it?
Most of them just think it's cool and a good scene, but the ones that get it, that really get into it. But it's still a good set either way.
Yeah, you get a few people who do know the movie. We had posted some stuff about the process of building the cabin on I think it was KC Home Haunters and a couple other things online, and we started getting messages from people, can we come out and see this? And we actually had a few people show up that we didn't know who just wanted to come out and see the Evil Dead cabin, and they were the ones that they spent their whole time in the cabin or sitting on the swing out on the porch, just looking at every little detail and loving it. And for us, that was the coolest part, was seeing people who love the movie and could appreciate how much work really went into it.
Yeah, so that's what's going to end up happening is people are going to start hitting you up all the time going, hey, can I come out and see it? And you'll start getting people year-round probably wanting to come out.
That'd be fine with me. Anybody who wants to come out and see it, I'd like to work it out because, they're my kind of people. They're obsessed with the movie just like we are.
You put on all this hard work, you don't want to just have a one-night exhibition, Yeah,
let everybody enjoy it.
Exactly. Start grabbing people off the street. Come on in, check it out. You know what this is? Here, I got the movie. We'll watch together. And then I'll walk you through my cabin.
We had somebody online ask if they could be the first ones to be murdered in there, and I told them they were too late.
What about pictures and vid? Did you take some? Do you have it online? Like, where can people check it out?
There, if you go to our Facebook page, it's Jack's Hollow is the name of the haunt. We have a lot of the progress pictures from the building, and then also some pictures and video of it, mostly done at last year's party. And then here within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be adding a lot more, like when we get that cellar door animation finished and things like that. And we'll get some better videos and pictures of everything as we get it, completely done. And we'll put those on as well if people want to get on and check those out.
Yeah, definitely keep us abreast of your future progress on the cabin. What else are you working on? You have anything else you guys are excited about building that you're working on right now for your Halloween extravaganza?
Well, we're not really doing anything else new, super big this year that I can think of. We had to move around some existing props and sets from when we built the cabin. Like we have I don't know if you know the Scare Factory body snatcher climbs up and down the rope. I don't know if you've seen that at Transworld, but we had one of those, but he was too close to the cabin last year, so we couldn't run him. So we've been working on moving him, which is kind of a process, and the whole setting underneath him so we could have him going again this year. And other than that, we're getting the normal party stuff ready that we have to do. And then if we have any time left over, we'll put some more into the cabin.
So you guys are spending money on things other than just Bud Light when you're at Transworld.
We do.
It's nice to see that you're actually supporting some vendors there. That's nice.
Yeah, we do. We do buy stuff there. Usually we come home with at least one pretty big prop each year. This year we didn't. I almost bought that giant possum that they had over at.
That was killer.
I love that thing, and I don't know what was so great about it, but I like smiled every time I walked by, but I didn't end up going for it. But that's something maybe for next year. I might have to get that. I'm sure I could find a good home for him.
Hey, I appreciate your continued support as both of you guys, and you didn't have to do that because I know you're brothers, and you probably could just share the show anyway. But not that you have to share it, but. Yeah, I mean, you guys both didn't have to step up. I appreciate the fact that you did, because you guys have been big-time supporters and listeners of the show from way back. From the beginning.
Yeah, and it's our pleasure because we get a lot of joy listening to this show and having it going while we build props and get ready for the party. It's the perfect soundtrack. We've been out in the barn the last few hours doing a little work, listening to the most recent episode again, and we just love it, man. We're so glad you're back.
Oh, yep. And if other people wanted to support us on Patreon, they could go over to patreon.com/Hauntcast.
And they should definitely do that.
Oh, yes.
You guys are a prime example. You guys are leading by example, and they should follow. You know what I'm saying?
If we can do it, anybody can do it. Come on.
I know. It was amazing having both of you guys on. I want you both to have a wicked pissa Halloween. Can you do that for me?
Thanks, Baker. We can do it. You too.
Trick or treat! Happy Samhain from Hauntcast. Devil's Night.
This morning, Billy looked like any other boy, but as the moon rose, he turned into a werewolf. He used new Pa's Halloween makeup kits. His friends did too. Look, Mike's a vampire. Amy's a ghost. Pa's makeup is safer than masks. It never blocks vision, and it's hypoallergenic too. So watch your kids turn into the creatures they really are with new Pa's Halloween makeup kits.
Dear Great Pumpkin, I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night.
They're back.
all the Little Peanuts characters in a happy Halloween special filled with ghosties and ghoulies and things that go bump in the night. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, Monday at 8, 7 Central and Mountain.
The Darkest Web.
Hello, Minions. I'm Morbid Mariah, and I would like to welcome you to the Darkest Web. I'll be sharing with you some of the weird and wonderful things I found while wasting time on the web, from retailers to artists to streaming shows, really whatever pops up on my radar that I think might interest my fellow haunters. First off, let's talk shopping. If you haven't already, definitely take a look at Home Depot. They've really upped their game on the animated props they offer. Here are my 3 personal favorites available at Home Depot. The 60-inch animated dragon. It's got a $299 price tag, but it's pretty dang impressive. It has red LED eyes, and the mouth moves and releases fog when attached to a fog machine, which is included. I've heard that the paint tends to scrape off easily, but as haunters, we can fix that. Also, take into consideration the prop doesn't break down very small, so it can be challenging to store. Take a peek at their 63-inch animated crouching werewolf. The stance this guy is in reminds me of the transformation scene in American Werewolf in London. He has red LED eyes and is covered in faux fur, which honestly is pretty cheesy. It's all the same mousy brown color. His face, feet, and hands are all molded plastic, and he tosses his head back and howls. But his howl's not very scary. Basically, I think this guy's a great start, a base really, for a skilled haunter to kind of snazz up. I think with a little work, he could be made to look pretty spectacular. He's $180. The 9-foot gargantuan spider prop for $249 is really a wow piece just due to the sheer size of it. It has posable legs, 6 red light-up eyes, and makes hissing noises, and has a volume control. Now let's talk about their major competitor, Lowe's. Lowe's seems to have more in the way of indoor props, good for parties and interactive haunts. My favorite larger prop at Lowe's is the animatronic werewolf life-size greeter. This guy looks like he just completed his transformation as he's still wearing a torn plaid shirt and pants. He stands 78 inches tall and has green LED eyes. His head turns, his mouth moves, and he growls, snarls, and howls. I gotta say, some of the sounds he's making sound a little more like he's hawking a loogie rather than being terrifying, but he's still pretty cool. He'll run you $150. The animated fortune teller is a fun prop for a carnival-themed haunt. This figure's mouth doesn't move, but I think it makes it feel more like a machine you'd find on a carnival midway. His head and hands do move, and his eyes light up, as does his color-changing crystal ball. His box reads Zoltan, definitely a nod to the classic fortune-telling Zoltar machines. His booth is made with flimsy fabric, so I'd recommend backing it onto foam sheets or plywood or something. Zoltan will cost you $150. Discount retailer Big Lots has an 80-inch animated skeleton dragon that's worth taking a look at. It's $149. Its mouth opens and closes and it screeches, and it has red glowing eyes. I guess dragons are a thing this year because they're also offering a variety of different sized skeleton dragons. I also want to mention my favorites at Michael's. Keep in mind prices quoted are the original prices, and between coupons and sales, you really should never be paying more than about half of the original price. If you have a mad scientist theme going on in your haunt, check out the Skeleton X-ray Wall Accent. It's $14.99 and has 3 panes of glass with the head, chest, and pelvis of a skeleton printed on it. There's also a skeleton anatomy chart for $30 and a skull anatomy print that has Mad Laboratories stenciled on it in an old-fashioned font. That one's $17. They also have a nice variety of chemistry glassware. A couple things I actually purchased at Michael's this year are the lit Haunted Mansion wall sign and the Venus flytrap flowers. The Haunted Mansion sign's actually more of a faux painting. It features a classic spooky mansion. It has strategically placed LEDs that make an eerie glow behind the windows of the house as well as on the street lamps. I'm using it as a nightlight actually because it emits a nice warm subtle glow, and that was $22. The Venus flytrap flowers are made of a sturdy metal and feature 3 buds or heads, and they all have sharp white teeth. And they've achieved a really cool texture on this piece, and that was $30. So everyone knows about the Beisel Company, right? They've been making awesome Halloween decorations for over 100 years. But have you seen their Elvira line of party decorations? If you're a fan of the Mistress of the Dark, and really, who isn't, then you gotta check this out. They have streamers, banners, wall clings, and centerpieces, all featuring the buxom beauty. The 3D Macabre-mobile centerpiece is really cool. The details on the car are super impressive. My personal favorite item, though, has to be the Elvira bust centerpiece. You know those honeycomb tissue ball decorations that are like classic party decor? This Elvira bust features 2 of them. Guess where? You can find these awesome decorations on Beisel.com. That's BEISTLE, or for a slight discount at PartyCheap.com. When you're looking for something good to watch at the end of a long day of prop building, I recommend you check out Lore. Lore is originally a podcast, but now also a show on Amazon. It's brought to you by the executive producers of The Walking Dead and The X-Files, but Aaron Mahnke is the creator and narrator. The show presents tales of the strange and mysterious from history and folklore, told through historical reenactments, animation, and just great storytelling. Some topics covered in Season 1 include vampires, ghosts, werewolves, lobotomies, and so on. I've really enjoyed it, and I think it'll be a perfect addition to your scary show watch list. The second season starts October 19th. You probably already know about this show, but in case you somehow missed it, let me recommend Castle Rock, available on Hulu. Based on the stories of Stephen King, it intertwines characters from the fictional town of Castle Rock, Maine. J.J. Abrams and Stephen King are executive producers, and the production values are really top-notch. Being a huge fan of King's novels, I was skeptical that this show would be anything more than a mess, mashing characters together in a sort of haphazard train wreck of a story. But I was very pleasantly surprised. The acting is really stellar, the storyline intriguing, it just keeps you guessing all the way to the end, and I'm happy to hear that the show's going to have a second season. Check it out if you're looking for a creepy new show to watch. If you're in need of some inspiration to get your creativity flowing, I gotta say that for me, one of the best places to find inspiration is in fine art. Let me recommend you check out a couple of artists whose work might be just the nightmare fuel you need to make something awesome. First, let me introduce you to Aaron Alfrey. Aaron's work is super detailed and loaded with horrifying imagery. His work is mostly digital, but he uses such a painterly style that it's nearly impossible to tell what the medium is. It often looks exactly like pen and ink, but is a technique he describes as, quote, macro digital photographic collage manipulation. Well, that's a mouthful. He uses a variety of layered texture samples like skin, rotting fruit, animal hide, and then he kind of manipulates them into shapes. I can't really do his art justice by trying to describe it. I mean, it's just so imaginative. It's really frightening stuff. It's so intricate that every time you look closely at it, you'll see something new. Check it out for yourself by doing a web search of Aaron Alfrey. That's AERON ALFREY. Or you can check out a sampling of his work on weirdfictionreview.com and just do a search for Aaron Alfrey. Also, check out the Homo algus swamp creatures made by sculptor Sophie Prestigiacomo. Hey, that Italian pronunciation isn't too bad for a gal who took lots of German. Sophie has created some really captivating figures made from mud and seaweed, and she placed them in a marsh nature reserve in France. The algae dries out within the elements, making the colors and the textures on the creatures change over time. These organic sculptures are both fascinating and kind of unsettling, and just might inspire you to get the monster mud out and make a nature-based creature for your haunt. Probably the easiest way to look her up is to do a web search for Homo algus. That's HOMO-ALGUS. Before I wrap it up, I want to shout out a fun Halloween-based blog, The Spooky Vegan. Now, before all of the dedicated carnivores tune out, you can rest assured that this is a great blog to follow for all sorts of Halloween stuff. She shares links to sneak peeks of Halloween merchandise that'll be available in stores, both online and brick and mortar, info about professional haunts, Halloween and horror-related events, and yes, some vegan Halloween recipes. She's been posting regularly since 2010, so there's a wealth of cool stuff to check out on her blog. That's thespookyvegan.com. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of The Darkest Web. Thanks Thanks for joining me. This is Morbid Mariah, reminding you that when all the fussing and fighting on the internet starts to burn you up, it's always nice and cool in the darkest corners of the web.
Who shock women into uncontrolled hysteria, who prey upon the innocence of children.
Shocktails with Johnny Thunder.
I wonder if it isn't all a dream, a nightmare.
He's the Bert to my Ernie. You know him as the podcast heartthrob and master of scaremonies, Johnny Thunder.
Oh, what's going on, genius? How are things up in the mire?
Hey, it's getting a little hairy up in the mire.
Gross.
A little hairy, a little scary.
Hairy and scary?
I really should do a little manscaping. I was
going to say, earlier you were talking about pissing out your window, so that's what I hear, hairy and scary.
Pissing out
that's what your neighbor Bob says.
Yeah, on to Bob's car.
Take that paint right off. You want some great stuff? I got your great stuff right here, Bob.
Yeah, Bob's standing out there. This doesn't matter. I didn't see any rain in the forecast. I don't understand why they.
Oh, he's into that, is he? So what's going on? You're setting up your puppets. I see you're redoing puppets, all kinds of chicken wire and puppets and puppetry. Nonsense.
Me and Scully have been busy working on the mire, recording this shit for some reason. I don't know. It's really slowing down my build time, but you know.
Well, there's that whole pesky crowdsourcing funding thing. You might want to honor that, because I just saw that whole story about the couple in New Jersey that raised them up $400,000 for the homeless dude. So you not want to go to jail. So maybe honor your obligations.
Considering we're not anywhere close to that figure.
Sure, money bags. I saw you with your new golden, race car and your platinum rocket jet and everything else. So.
You know what? It's probably great that we haven't even reached our second goal, because then now I'm really only committed to having you do it every other month. So,
dude, thank God.
Better that way.
I was like, is there any way you can make people not get us back to going monthly?
Yeah, put out another podcast. Put out another episode.
So they actually
people will immediately go, oh, yeah, that's why I don't want this back once a month.
That's why I hated those guys. Those Neanderthals.
That's why I gave them the 1-star review on iTunes and called them
awful,
Neanderthals.
Awful humor. Yeah, exactly. Again, what are you going to do? Everybody can't be as perfect as us.
Obviously not. Based on what I see on Facebooky and the Twitter.
Exactly.
Hey, so brother, all the begging and pleading, the baits actually caved and took you back again for this season?
Yeah. I guess they got my check, and that.
Because you're now the new deal is you're paying them to work there.
Exactly. Do you see how my humor works? See, you picked up on that, Ernie. Good job. So I'm never sure. Are we pretending that we're taping this concurrently with the release date, or can we acknowledge that we're doing this?
Yeah, because it worked so well last Halloween when we did it that way.
Theater of the mind.
What? Oh, forget it.
All right, look, the Bates opens on September 21st. That's tomorrow night. I should be sober enough by then.
You should have shaken off this hangover.
Exactly.
The last bar of the left.
So Bubba will be back. I'm really, really thrilled to be back. This is my 9th season, I think. And wow. So I'll be there, I think, 8 nights, which is awesome. Again, like that they let me come back and just play for a couple nights. But I mean, it's so much fun. They've done so many improvements this year. I don't want to say improvements, but just different changes, and they've changed up a lot of stuff. And it's going to be a really, really kick-ass season. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. Yeah. And you know what? Which is awesome. Today was the first day that we kind of felt like the fall. The cloud, it was all cloudy and overcast and in the 70s and really cool. And it's going to be a nice, cool weekend for our opening weekend, because last year it was, I think, like 85 degrees and everybody was like so sweaty and passing out. This really, really gets you the vibe.
People were showing up with boogie boards and in their shorts and bikinis and whatnot.
Well, the most horrifying part was Bubba in his board trunks. I will say. That was the scariest thing you will ever see. So.
They didn't actually have to make up your legs, did they?
No. Actually, all the patrons' puke covered my chest and my leg. So, it was a win-win.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so you got that going on for you.
Yeah, I got that going for me. Oh boy, I just can't believe it's Halloween again, dude. Like
September. Granted, I've been in a flurry of building shit, so but this month is like flying by. I'm like, holy shit! I actually set the yard up. The Meijer goes up this weekend, so it's
Now, this weekend in September or this weekend in October?
Well, okay. The Meijer will be up for 2 weeks by the time anybody hears this. But Meijer will be up in full swing. It'll be rocking, dude.
The full Meijer effect.
Yeah, the full Meijer, like the full Monty.
Yeah, the full Monty effect, full Meijer Monty effect. Awesome.
Got some, Gordy's rebuilt and rocking and rolling.
Cool.
He's out there keeping watch and. You got the swamp lamps going on, and
I'm sorry, the swamp ass.
That's what I'll have Halloween night.
So, are we doing this, or what are we doing?
The kids are having fun. Hey, you know what?
The kids are having fun.
Let me ask you a question, there, Professor.
Riddle me this, Mr. Baker.
Who's sponsoring Shocktails this episode, round, whatever?
I'm glad you asked, genius. On my end, it's my old standby, and everybody can go GFY if you don't like it. It's Bell's Two-Hearted Ale, but I'm sure you, genius, have something much more interesting to regale us with. What are you drinking?
Johnny Thunder, the unofficial spokesman of Bell's Two-Hearted Ale.
I wish I got a deal.
At least a free six-pack every once in a while. What the come on.
So, hey, if anybody's out there, please contact them and tell them how much I love this. They can be a sponsor.
All right, sponsoring my side of the table, the better side of the table, Cool Caramels, spelled KOOLKARAMELZ. Just like your mom used to make, kids, if your mom's Snoop Dogg. Made from the best ingredients, raw sugar, heavy cream, butter, corn syrup, vanilla, and 60 milligrams of THC.
Oh my goodness, that was actually made me laugh. Look at you, actually making me laugh.
Wow, I was actually clever.
That was a first.
By mistake, by complete mistake. I was funny.
Exactly. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Last Bar on the Left. My name is Johnny Thunder, and as Baker said, we are serving
also known as Joni Thunderstein.
Well, look. All right, look, that didn't work out so good for me. All right, look, I'm a whore. I'm desperate for airtime. All right, give me a break. All right.
Well, here you go. You get a whole 30 minutes. Go nuts.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Last Bar on the Left. As I said, we are serving up Shocktails. I've got a bunch of nonsense this month. We got some movie reviews. We've got some other stuff, but I'm going to start off with a couple book reviews and some comic books I want to recommend to everybody. So the first book...
Because you're one of those wicked smart guys. You like all those words.
Found in human flesh and inked in blood.
Putrid print.
So the first one is Freaky Florida, The Wonder House, The Devil's Tree, The Shaman of Felipe Park, and more by Mark Muncy and Carrie Schultz. It's $23.99 and it's 160 pages. Now, of course, Mark Muncy is our show friend, right?
Yeah.
He's the creator
big-time supporter, long-time listener, and I think his haunt just got closed up about a year ago or so.
Right. Hellview Cemetery.
Yeah.
That's right. The charity haunted house down in Central Florida. It was banned by the city of St. Petersburg. He, along with his fiancée, Carrie, who illustrates the book, this is a really, really kick-ass book. This is a follow-up to their first book, Eerie, Florida, from 2017. Each year, tens of millions of people flock to the sunny state for its sunny beaches and world-famous tourist attractions. Most never learn about the strange and unusual locations just off the beaten path. Join the authors as they share tales of Florida's myths, monsters, massacres, and legends, and the hidden history behind them. this was such a great, fun book. You learn so much about the history of Florida, and also just kind of the weird off the beaten paths. Maybe you want to call them urban legends or ghost tales or stories of murder and like we said, supernatural events and so forth. I'm not into ghosts in terms of like going out to hunt ghosts and investigating Sasquatch and stuff, but I love reading the old stories and tales about them. And Mark and Carrie do such a great job capturing all of the craziness going on down there in Florida. So if you're at all into all the stuff that I just mentioned and you're a haunter or you're a Halloween fan, definitely check out this book. I really, really dug it, and I totally recommend it. The next one is Frankenfatal by H.J. Bennett. So the premise of this book is that in an alternate reality, Dr. Frankenstein's reanimation of corpses is completely possible. And so in this world, the rich basically get to buy, sell, and trade body parts to achieve physical perfection and uniqueness. Now, there's then a resulting conflict between what they call the warm bloods, who have actually survived, and the dead, who completely reanimate themselves. So the story's told from the perspective of a reanimated person, Rita Venus, who's a self-absorbed undead 80s pop star with a penchant for booze and violence. It's a crazy kind of book. I would definitely say it's for mature audiences only. It's drugs, alcohol, violence, sex, language, and all kinds of craziness. I really think if you're looking for something different, something a little bit fun, more of a sci-fi, adult kind of a book, definitely check this one out. Now, moving on to some comic books, Blackwood just wrapped up. It was a 4-issue miniseries from Dark Horse Comics and from one of my personal favorites, Evan Dorkin, who comic fans out there might know from Milk and Cheese and Dork, Milk and Cheese is one of my favorite books ever. It's a college horror comedy that follows 4 haunted young adults who attend Blackwood College to explore and improve their supernatural powers. But as usually is the case with these situations, there's something ancient and sinister that interrupts their education. Now, Dorkin himself says he kind of took his inspiration from 70s, 80s horror comedies like Fright Night, Reanimator, Night of the Creeps, and Return of the Living Dead, and mixes in some comedies like Animal House, Better Off Dead, and Real Genius. This was really cool. You know what it almost reminded me of? It had more of maybe like some high school kids and college students going off to Hogwarts or X-Men, something like that. It's really cool, really fun. It should probably be out in trade very soon. So if you're into sort of a supernatural horror comic book that's a little bit lighter, definitely check out Blackwood. Another book that just came out is Joe Golem, a cult detective. Mike Mignola just put out a new series in his Drowning City series. So, of course, people know Mike Mignola from Hellboy and the BPRD people. If you're into sort of, again, a supernatural investigative detective series, definitely check this out. It's very cool. This one involves a medium and crazed scientist and all your typical Mike Mignola nonsense. So I dug the first issue, and I would look for the rest of them. Now, the last comic I want to plug this month is coming actually on Halloween Day, $3.99, from Ahoy Comics, which is a new imprint. It's called Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror. Famous author and day drunk Edgar Allan Poe introduces tales of suspense, shock, and disgust. Awesome. We're right there, right, dude? So some of these are adapted from Poe's stories. Others are new stories. But it's described as sort of a treehouse of horror crossed with drunk history. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So turning over to TV, like we always say this.
Hold on. Let me just interject a little something.
Sure. Yes.
Excuse me. Can I push my way into the conversation? No,
gross.
I think you're, I know. JT, I think you're going to be maybe even slightly proud of me. You know, from all the talk that we've done over the years, you're talking about different comic books that you dig, and I've heard you reference EC Comics numerous times.
Sure.
Really didn't know anything about EC. Every time you said EC, I said, did he screw up? He meant to say DC, right? Until I realized and looked into it and goes, oh shit, EC, Entertaining Comics. So I ended up diving in and found a couple of those hardcover sets on eBay. So I bought the full Haunt of Fear and Vault of Horror collection. So
awesome.
There's about 5 books in each. Just I don't know how many comics are in there, but yeah, it's kind of like the Dark Horse and the eerie, creepy release that they did. I guess I don't know when. I think this was done in the 90s when they released those, but loving those, reading through those, and they're such a blast. They're very cool. So thanks for it only took me 9 years to use any piece of information that you had and put it to some good use. Yeah.
I'm glad that I can be of assistance to you. I'm glad finally I can help you with something.
About time.
Yeah, right?
I know.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens. All right, look, I don't want to spend too much. And again, dude, all right, let's move on to, Terror Vision.
Hello, darling.
A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight.
Terror Vision.
No, honestly, dude, we could do a whole hour on TV. We could do a whole hour on books. We can do a whole hour on, film. I'm not.
That would be a great show.
What's that?
That would be a great show. What would we call it?
What would be a great show?
What would we call it? A show that was like an hour long that would talk about horror TV shows, horror comics.
I think it was called Shocktail Hour.
Hey, that's a great name. We should use that.
It is. I think it was always like 2 hours, which I dug because I always thought it was hilarious that it's called Shocktail Hour, except it was like 2.5 hours long.
We'll have to start a Patreon campaign for that.
No, look, I can barely do this every other month of this nonsense. Please, my voice is already enough. But the only thing I wanted to say was I want to give a shout out because I bailed on this show a couple of years ago, and I'm totally stuck back in this season. So I want to thank the producers, Ryan Murphy, so far. And again, but I'm always a little trepidatious about getting behind this because I've been tricked in the past. I've been,
punked.
Exactly. American Horror Story Apocalypse came back on September 12th. And this is the 8th season of the show, and it's going to be 10 episodes this year, and it's described as a crossover season between Murder House and Coven. So far, I'm digging the show. Now, remember, everybody out there, I'm only a couple weeks into this, so by the time the show comes out, if it sucks ass, don't yell at me, all right? I don't want to hear any negativity. But I'm really, really digging the whole post-apocalyptic, we're trapped in the bunker, this whole Antichrist sort of vibe so far. You've got a lot of really scary imagery with the contamination suits and the gas masks and just the general creepiness inside the bunker. The bunker reminded me a little bit of Karloff and Lugosi in The Black Cat, where it was sort of this bizarrely Art Deco kind of vibe, but it's a sort of a modern haunted house, and I definitely got that. Although this place in the American Horror Story reminded me of like a really cool restaurant you'd want to go to, except I wouldn't want to eat the little cube. And spoiler, the best line from the first episode was when they're eating, apparently they're eating, this guy's name was Stu, and they're eating soup, and they're eating stew. And the guy, this guy Stu's boyfriend stands up and screams, "Oh my God, the stew is stew." Like, that was one of the best lines ever in the history of television. So I just want to say that made me laugh. Now, whether or not this holds up, I don't know. And there's Joan Collins, dude. I mean, what the hell else do you want besides Joan Collins, playing basically her Dynasty character? So far I'm on board, but time will tell. Do you want to go to the movies, Chris?
Yeah, I guess. Is there anything out there? Anything worth seeing?
I don't know. Remember the last time we went to the
recommend?
Movies? I don't know. The last time we went to the movies, Denny fell asleep, and we were in the front row, and we weren't exactly.
You were screaming at the screen.
All right, look, we weren't exactly.
It was really horrible, though.
We weren't exactly in the best state of mind, and the movie was horrible.
Yeah, we were at a Bennigan's or some kind of Applebee's in the parking lot out front of the movie theater. You were doing a shot for two shots for every beer that you drank. And I hung in there with you for 1, 2, then I'm like, fuck this. I can barely speak right now. And then you kept going. That's why I came up with the name Bulletproof for you. Shot after shot after shot. And no effect. Denny was calling me a pussy, and he stuck in there with you for 2 more, and then 10 minutes later, he's passed out on the front row at the movie theater.
Well, in everybody's defense, we did go see the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, which sucked ass. So It was the perfect storm of bad decisions that evening.
True that.
All right, so you know what's really, really cool? I was really excited about this, dude. Celebrating the 50th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead, they're going to re-release it for 2 nights this October. It's going to be a restored version of Romero's original classic friggin' film. So if you want to go check it out, I think it's October 24th and 25th in theaters. Of course, my outline does not have the relevant dates. That's awesome. So it's gonna be in theaters for 2 nights. I think those are the nights, but don't hold them to me. So
kids, it's up to you to do your homework for this.
But here's what I want to say, which is my favorite thing from the Phantom Events website. Okay, it says, celebrating 50 years, blah 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 blah. Then it says, attention, Night of the Living Dead fans, we want you to have fun at this event, but safety is paramount. Now, here's my favorite part. Please note, attending in costume is fine. However, masks, face-concealing makeup, fake weapons, as well as any costumes that conceal what you are carrying, your natural body shape, or face are strictly prohibited. So, what? So, please come in costume, but don't wear a costume. I'm not sure what that says there. So, I would probably say, to be safe, don't go in a costume.
Yeah, that's
just go completely obliterated out of your mind and yell at the theater.
Listening to our show, you can wear whatever the hell you want.
I mean, I'm completely naked.
We're a constitutional republic, damn it, and we give you those freedoms. You can wear nothing if you want while you listen. That's what I said.
Since it's the Halloween episode, I decided to do this one nude to add to the horror.
By the way, just a little fun fact: I just watched Night of the Living Dead 2 nights ago. So, go figure. What a coinky dink.
Wow. You're awesome. You're on top of the pulse of the horror community.
I am, but thanks for saying so.
Awesome.
It makes me feel better about myself.
All right, so let's get to some reviews. It's always the paramount of excitedness on this program, isn't it? So,
it's my favorite.
I know, me too. A couple months ago, my kid and I went to go see Hotel Transylvania 3.
Too many eyes, too few eyes, not into tentacles.
Dad?
No, babies!
You're stressed out from working too hard. You need a vacation from running everyone else's vacation. And I know just how to fix it.
Mavis, where are we going? A cruise?
Surprise!
Oh, no.
Dad! Come on, there's so much to do. You could go scuba diving. Try some exotic food. Or just enjoy the view.
So Count Dracula and company participate in a cruise for sea-loving monsters, unaware that their boat is being commandeered by the monster-hating Van Helsing family. So anybody that's out there that has kids, or perhaps you just dig Halloween stuff, if you like the first, Hotel Transylvania and then Hotel Transylvania 2, it's the same thing. It's fun. It's cool if you have kids. It's actually cool if you don't have kids. But we had a great afternoon. We went out to lunch. We went to the movie. We went to a flea market. So it's everything you expect from Adam Sandler's Hotel Transylvania 3. Nothing inappropriate, a lot of fun, a lot of just, simple jokes and some music and everything else. So if you got a little one, I would definitely recommend that one. But Chris, with your mentality, I think it's right up your alley, even though you don't have little ones right now.
I'm an empty nester, man.
You are? Yeah. You all right? Doing all right with the kids away? And oh, God. Well, you still have Scully, and then you also have to keep you company that, baggie full of sliced ham and KY jelly that you like to feel special with and feel sexy with on Thursday nights. Light a candle and crack open a bottle of wine and get your sexy time.
Let me make a note. Note to self: buy new vajankle.
You wore out the one I gave you for Christmas already, you heathen. Before I start with the rest of these movies, did you see any of these? Because I want to know where to pause to make you talk.
Yes.
Okay, what did you see?
The Church and Animalistic.
Oh, all right. So let's start with a couple you have not seen. I will get to The Night Eats the World.
You made it through everything. You probably thought you'd drop dead peacefully in your sleep. And then this happens.
Anyone here? Hey!
You think there's a cure?
The Night Eats the World is a French film based on the novel of the same name. After waking up in an apartment where the night before there was a party going on, Sam is forced to come to grips with reality. He's now alone, and the living dead have invaded the streets of Paris. Petrified with fear, Sam is going to have to barricade himself inside of the building and organize his own survival. But is he really the only sole survivor? This one actually looked interesting to me because I always dig foreign films, and I always dig the foreign takes on what are traditionally have become American sort of horror tropes, whether it's vampires or werewolves or the cannibal butcher family and so forth. And of course, in this case, it's zombies. This one really bored me to tears. There really wasn't much that I thought was interesting because it really hinges on this character, Sam. It's basically silent. The zombies are silent. He's silent. There's really nothing else going on. So you've got to be engaged in this character and care about what's going on with this cat. And I really didn't find anything that was really that engaging. He made a lot of stupid decisions, did a lot of stupid things. And besides, the fact that it's shot in Paris, which is actually kind of cool, otherwise it really doesn't offer much. I didn't really think it offered anything at this point to differentiate itself from any other zombie film. And it doesn't offer anything new in terms of horror. So it didn't really do much for me. It didn't really build any sort of suspense, or really wasn't interesting character-wise.
Ooh, there you are.
Hey, Kendra, check out my new caps.
To get this started officially, okay?
Speaking of Celia needing a drink,
I heard that about me being a parent to y'all. This way, you can all see the truth of why I'm really here.
Mark, you don't have to prove anything to us.
Gamma, tell me the story of the cursed trunk.
It's very important that I tell you about the cursed trunk.
Oh, goody, yes.
Right here in Salem, Massachusetts, my great-great-great-great-grandmother was killed for practicing witchcraft. The trunk contains a powerful evil that must never escape.
All right, the next one is E-Demon. So on a mission to bring the devil to Earth, an escaped demon manipulates a group of friends hanging out on a video chat. Since this ruthless demon can possess multiple people at once, knowing who to trust is the key to survival. I gotta say, I friggin' hated this movie. This was really, really obnoxious. It's this whole cast of characters who are like, the whole premise is they all went to college together, right? So they're all doing this like video chat to like catch up, and all of a sudden like they're possessed by like demons that are killing each other and everything else. It reminded me of the trailers. I never saw it, but it was like Unfriended and then like Unfriended Dark Web that just came out over the summer, which both look shit-tastic, and I could never wait to never see those films. This was just obnoxious. I'm not saying it was badly acted, but the characters were so unlikable, and the idea of like this E-Demon like jumping through the video screens, and again, that's cool. It was sort of a different take on presenting the found footage film. I think VHS or VHS2, one of them did sort of this video sort of chat thing, which again was original, so I don't hate that idea, but I might want to see a little bit more likable characters, so I did not dig E-Demon in the least. I thought they were horrible characters. I couldn't wait for everybody to die, and I was rooting for the monster. Not a good sign. Let's move on to a flick that I did dig. It was called Animalistic.
The company, More Oil, is expected to close a contract with the Australian ambassador, Emma Thompson, who arrives tonight.
Hi, I'm Philippa, the representative for More Oil. Hi, I'm Emma. Please sit. Thank you. You can just sign here underneath my signature. I think this deserves a toast. Cheers. Need a ride, sweetheart?
I like her. Thanks, lovely.
Please let me go. What do you want from me?
That's a really good question.
Emma is a businesswoman coming from Australia to the United States to sign a contract. On her way to the press conference, she jumps into a taxi. And much like when Chris and I get into a taxi, we are attacked and drugged by the taxi driver. She wakes up in a chair tied up, and she's locked away in this filthy cabin. She soon learns that she's the night's amusement for a man named Jim and his loyal associates Pete and Shirley. Now she must do everything she can to survive. Definitely in the vein of I Spit on Your Grave, The Last House on the Left, a very dark, nasty rape revenge flick. Looks very like it's straight out of the 1970s. It's not high budget. It's nothing new. It's nothing, out of the ordinary in terms of, creativity or something new in terms of filmmaking. But I dug how dark it was. I dug that it was just this sort of little short, nasty flick. And, of course, my favorite is always the whole revenge segment. Again, unfortunately, it's only the last 20 minutes or so where she goes balls to the wall and kills everybody that's, been so horrible to her throughout the film. You do have to put up with blatant abuse, rape, and everything else. And I remember a few years ago there was a flick called Bound to Vengeance, which I dug because it was the same sort of rape revenge film, but the main character, she woke up, and 5 minutes into the film, she killed her captor without seeing all the horrible nonsense that he did to her. And then she went out to find all the other women that are being held captive. So you kind of got right to the revenge part, which was awesome. This one, like I said, a little bit more along the lines of I Spit on Your Grave, or the remake of I Spit on Your Grave and I Spit on Your Grave 2. But this one, for whatever reason, I dug it. Not the best thing, not the best acted film, but I really, really enjoy. I don't know if you can say enjoy these kind of films, but I dug this one. I think you could spend a worse way with 80 minutes. So Animalistic for me so far was a thumbs up this month. What about you, Sparkles?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be high.
I almost feel guilty about saying that I like this movie.
Right? That's
I needed to go take a shower afterwards. So it's
sure.
But
also what I dug. But let me interrupt too. I forgot to say the practical effects were awesome. Like there were a lot of good practical effects. There's a rapist thrown into a thresher or a wood chipper. There's ankles being cut off, and there's screwdrivers being put in, and there's throats being slit. But it's practical effects, which was awesome from a hunting standpoint.
I thought they did a great job with the foot. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. I expected cheesier for that kind of a movie, but
budget.
Yeah, but they did. Whoever they had on the effects did a great job. No doubt.
Agreed.
Little Tom Savini wannabe there, that little son of a bitch.
All right, so good. So we liked one of them so far, I guess, or two of them, I guess. Whatever.
I'll give that one a severed thumbs up. Sure.
All right, now the last movie I want to plug this month that I really dug also was The Church, written and directed by first-time filmmaker Dom Frank, filmed here in Philadelphia, PA. We got some good shots of the Art Museum of Center City and some old churches up in North Philly. You got a lot of really actually recognizable actors in this one, which I thought was kind of cool. You got Bill Moseley. Of course, we know from the upcoming 3 from Hell, Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. You've got Ashley Williams, Lisa Wilcox, Keith Stallworth, a little special appearance at the end by Clint Howard. So this one revolves around there's a church and a pastor. There's a real estate developer who wants to take over this church that's sitting on a plot of land that's standing up this whole redevelopment of a section of Philadelphia. So after a pastor and select members of his congregation agree to sell his family's 100-year-old church to a local developer, their sins begin to manifest in front of their eyes, and all hell breaks loose inside the church. Dun, dun, dun. I had fun with this. Again, it was very short, very straightforward. You've got a lot of very recognizable veteran horror actors in this one, which I thought was kind of cool. And it was a fun little story. I didn't realize that it was going to end up, it was almost the reverse of, say, a zombie flick where they're trapped inside of a building and they're trying to shore up their defenses against something coming from the outside. This one, all the main characters are trapped inside the church and can't get out for one reason or another. You learn it's because of their various sins and so forth. So I will say on the downside, the special effects. Now, again, a small budget flick like this doesn't really have the money to spend on special effects.
I was going to say, where did they get the budget to pay ILM to do all this amazing CGI work? Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Right. So I dug this one. I thought it was fun. Like I said, it was fun to see Bill Moseley and a bunch of the other people in it. It was nice to see, I said, obviously some of the Philadelphia, but I thought it had a good story. I thought it was pretty entertaining, and I had a good time with this, so I dug this one.
Okay.
You didn't like it?
No, come on. What's the punchline? That's the punchline?
You didn't like it? Oh, come on. I like this fight.
The best thing about this movie is that it was short. It was very short.
Oh, come on. You're hateful. I like Bill Moseley. I'll watch Bill Moseley do anything.
I mean, you know who really stole the show, though? That guy who played, and what was it? Andre? The global investor?
Oh, who played
Satan.
Satan.
The show with his method acting. He was, yeah.
Well, I think he's actually Romanian, dude. No, really. I think he is. I looked it up on IMDb.
He is. I looked it up as well. And
yeah.
But, wow.
All right, so you... All right, look, I drink...
You were drinking way too many Bell Two-Hearted Ales that night, I think.
All right, look, don't listen to Baker. If you just roll with it, it was fun. I dug it, all right? Look, you know what? And this is just one asshole's opinion. You don't have to listen to me, but I'm usually right, so don't listen to Baker. Okay?
At least it was, slightly better than The Last Jedi, so,
All right, look, don't bring your anti-SJW stuff into here, okay? This is I don't need that kind of negativity in here, okay? This is a safe zone for all of us to express our views.
Of course, people know you for positivity, so I don't want to screw that up.
I mean, look, this is the new JT. I mean, come on. I'm nothing but bright and cheery and delightful, right?
Of course. You're the face of Bates Haunted Motel, so of course you got to be cheery, spot on. Always fun, always with the quick wit.
Well, something like that. But all right. So are we done?
Wow, did we just blast through all those? Shit, that was quick.
So should we recap or what did we
hold
learn?
on. So
did we learn?
I want to know. We all want to know. Your fans. We all want to know.
Go ahead.
What nights are you going to be on this season? So we can come out and see you, get your autograph, give you flowers, that kind of thing.
Well, by the point, when is this coming out? October 9th?
It would be the next night you were on.
I will be at the Bates in October, just Saturdays, right now.
Okay, so Saturdays throughout the month of October.
Yes. And sometimes they do post that there's during the week that they need actors, and sometimes I'd be willing to go in to do that. But again, I'd have to have green M&Ms and Courvoisier in my trailer, air conditioned to 72 degrees, not 73, not 71, 72 degrees. So we'll have to see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, right now I'm scheduled to be there Saturday nights, which again, I'm thankful that they take me back just for that limited amount of time. Cause it's enough to have fun with it. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to, park my rascal.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like work.
No. It's just, like I said, coming home and icing my hips and, trying to, then of course I have my whole massage team and I have my, my whole pit stop crew that has to try to rejuvenate me for the next week. So, it's hard. Like I said, my massages, my workout partners, and my dietitian and everything else. So it's a difficult, difficult month.
You have to go into physical therapy every Sunday after that.
Sundays I'm on the couch watching football. Both knees are iced, and I am crippled. But it's fun. It's awesome. Like I said, it is the
get me a beer. Can I get another beer?
Yeah. Well, the greatest thing is now my daughter can actually go get me a beer. So I'm like, it's either mommy or kid. Can you go get daddy a beer? Okay. It's awesome. But anyway,
Daddy,
listen.
Shouldn't you slow down? This is the fifth one in the last half hour. Mommy says you might be drinking too much.
I liked before she could count. It was a lot easier. But all right, dude. Well, listen, we made it to another Halloween episode. And dude, we're coming up on what? 10th year anniversary?
10th anniversary extravaganza.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
That's great, dude.
Yeah. Dude, that's insane.
And I still talk to you 10 years later. Like,
I know.
10 minutes.
A decade. That's
longer than
mind-blowing.
Was it longer than your marriage?
It definitely is longer than my marriage. I think I almost to the day made it about 5 years. It was 5.
My God! So wait, so you and I have been together longer, twice as long as you're married.
Yes.
Oh, I love you, brother.
Oh, the bromance. Yeah, man.
All right. So listen, I'm going to sign off with a Halloween toast. You want to everybody hoist up the drinks. All right, here we go.
Get your freaking glasses up, kids.
Yeah, get it up. Get it up, dude. Get it up. All right. Boing. Here's to the witches. Here's to their cats. Here's to the hoot owls and whirring bats. Here's to the ghosties in robes of white. Here's to the thrills of Halloween night. Cheers, man.
Salute.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening. This is Johnny Thunder saying Happy Halloween and stay scary.
Hello, this is Greg Wallace from the Wallace Manor Yard Haunt in Loveland, Ohio.
This is Eric Lowther from Haunted Overload.
This is Bob Kowal from Infestation Yard Haunt.
This is Spencer Carter from Casa Fear.
This is Warren Maxwell from Third Degree of Terror Haunted House.
Hey, this is Toby Rolston from Haunt 31.
Hi, this is Matt Ford from The House at Haunted Hill.
This is Leslie Bannatyne, author of Halloween Nation.
This is Ed Douglas from Midnight Syndicate.
This is John Denley from Boneyard Productions and Escape Room International.
I am Macabre, Gravely Macabre of Castle Blood. This is Kevin Kennedy from the Brewster Yard Haunt.
This is Brent from DC Design Studio and DC Cemetery.
Hi, this is Chris Ainsworth from the Thornhill Woods Haunted House.
This is Augustin Pandora Rose.
And we're Dark Rose Manor.
This is Iron Man from the Iron Kingdom and Slaughter on 2nd Street, No One's Broke, Kentucky.
This is Chris.
And this is Jeff from the Davis Graveyard.
This is Tara from Castle of Tara.
This is Dave Dan Canyon from Pandemic Cemetery and the Dead with Dave show.
This is Chris Tillman of the Scream Reaper Yard Haunt.
This is Gary Korb from the dearly departed Hallowed Haunting Grounds.
Happy Halloween!
Ancient Evil.
Before you go out haunting this Halloween, why not come into our place, if you dare? for all your Halloween haunting needs. Theatrical makeup and accessories. Consider, if you will, the J&S Smoke Shop, 284 Moody Street in Waltham.
Open 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 12 noon to 5 p.m. on Sunday.
Stephen King, author of Carrie, said, Evil Dead is the most ferociously original horror film of the year. If you think he's kidding, see for yourself. Evil Dead. They got up on the wrong side of the grave. Evil Dead from New Line Cinema.
Starts tomorrow at these theaters. Check newspapers for times.
Mad props for props.
Yeah, boy!
Oh yeah, me witches. I'm giving up the proppers to a guy who is the anti-spokesman for Orkin, Bob Cole, for his mutant long-legged spider prop.
Even science was stunned. The new atomic miracle should have been mankind's greatest boon.
Inspired by the tree spider from Skull Island, Bob created a gigantic arachnid with 14-foot legs that tower over his homestead and straddles over the sidewalk.
A blunder that transformed a tiny insect into the 100-foot spider that was now ravaging the panic-stricken countryside.
For the planning and mock-up, the concept was improvised and laid out on a computer-drawn program in full scale, with a human figure to give it a sense of size. A quarter-scale mock-up of the sidewalk roofline was required to figure out the skeleton structure and the rough lengths of the materials required. The mock-up skeleton was made from half-inch PVC. The skeleton and anchoring support spine is supported by a cantilever over the sidewalk from his roofline. The wooden I-beam spine supports at least 3 times the prop's weight. Every joint of the mock-up skeleton was labeled and marked with alignment points. Each coordinate on each leg was measured and plotted into a drawing. These markings and coordinates are critical to guide the final assembly. Bob constructed a counterweight rig out of 4 7-gallon water containers positioned behind the prop. These containers are dressed with PVC, coffee cans, hose, and a distressed paint job, disguising it as a fumigation rig.
I will hunt down the alleged arachnid and spread them to kingdom come.
For the body sections, prints of computer paper were projected and traced onto contractor paper and used to guide the general shape and scale. Shaped pieces of Corplast, corrugated plastic sheeting, are wrapped onto foam board framing to create translucent shells. For organic detailing, pool noodles were attached to the body shells with wire. Ironically, they are covered with pest-controlled grate stuff. The grate stuff is shaped, then coated with Plasti-Dip and Flex Seal spray. The legs consist of laminates of foam board, which were first routed to hold the PVC skeleton sections. The legs and head were shaped with hot knife scrapers and sandpaper. For finishing touches, the foam sculpts were patched and painted with several coats of exterior house paint, then highlighted with fluorescent paint. Similar colors are used on the body details as well. To make the fluorescent paint pop, Bob is using blue LED floodlights positioned around the prop.
You know, I have one simple request. Frickin' laser beams attached to their head.
For the green glowing curtain effect, a laser and fogger hose are mounted behind the head through the body. The kiddies will have to summon up a bit more courage to earn their treats at Mr. Cole's house this Halloween. That's for damn sure. To appreciate this astounding astronomical arachnid, crawl over to his YouTube channel, Attic Hatch. We'll post a link in the show notes. Do you have anything else to add, Bob?
Yeah, that's right. I'm bad.
Mind-blowing work, Bob. I am not worthy.
Theater of the Mind. The home stretch is finally upon us.
Here in the central Midwest, the season is finally breaking and letting the cool fall weather creep its way in. I'll be happy when the leaves finally change. For right now, I'm just satisfied the damn St. Louis humidity is starting to break up. Not there yet, but starting to. Autumn. Best time to be alive. And for the haunter community, it's mad dash time. Trying to balance work and haunt building is challenging in general. But in October, when the time left is measured in hours, this is the time when some critical decisions need to be made. Better sooner than later. Identify which track you're on. Track A, ideal and better than planned. B, right on schedule. Or C, salvage what plans you can and make the best of what you know you can definitely finish. The longer you wait, the tougher it is to dispense with those scenes or props that just won't gel with the master plan. After all, we ultimately are doing this for our own satisfaction, whether it be for artistic expression, technical challenge, or pure attention seeking, usually some combination of all the above, and parting with a project at the 0 hour can seem like self-dentistry without anesthetic. Those who don't haunt will often wonder what we can possibly get out of it that would merit such expense and effort. Those who don't understand Halloween at all, however, may see it as just a self-indulgent waste of time that ultimately benefits no one. These people are, of course, dead wrong. But do we ever stop to really think about what all we really offer with the presentation of our dark little creations? We get so wrapped up in the creative side of this great exchange, the haunt itself, that we can lose sight of the other side, the audience. What is it that they're looking for? What do they really get from us? What is it that you, the haunter, bring? The answer would seem obvious. Scares. People go to haunts for the same reason they go to horror movies. They want to see something scary. Some do it as sort of a dare. They're certain that their nerves of steel are unshakable, and they want to see the artist try to frighten them. Sort of a, think you can get me to jump? Let's see what you got kind of thing. These are the ones with something to prove, maybe to themselves or maybe to others. The latter group can often be the most fun because their defiance may be little more than false bravado, concealing a deep unease. Many of them will crack spectacularly with the right scare, much to the enjoyment of their companions. Others pretty much know they frighten easily and go knowing full well that they're going to be screaming themselves hoarse and jumping out of their skin at every gag that comes their way. But they love that. These are the adrenaline junkies. The Halloween equivalent of people who bungee jump or seek out the biggest, baddest roller coasters. The fright for them is a thrill, and their jumps and screams are a catharsis for all the pent-up stress that everyday life has layered upon them. But is there anything else besides scares? Well, actually, yes. For example, one of the things that I hear the most besides screams at the haunt where I play is laughter. Think about it. When you go into a haunt and get successfully scared, it's actually kind of funny afterward. After all, there is no actual threat, so every moment of contrived fear is, in itself, a kind of elaborate and twisted joke. Haunters and actors who focus on trying to keep people frightened and stressed, subjectively negative emotions, without some humor to relieve the tension, are missing half the fun. But those haunters are a rarity, at least among the home haunt crowd. Just about everybody I know who's into this tries for a good mix of both. And the laughs and screams don't necessarily have to come from the same person. You can scare the crap out of somebody in a group, and their friends will find that hilarious. If you can get some kind of reaction out of everybody, you've done a good job. It's all really about entertainment. Ultimately, people are going to haunts to be entertained. It's a break from the often arduous task of day-to-day living with its various stresses and worries, and the more out there and separate from daily reality it is, the more people revel in it. I sometimes hear people scoff at adults who like Halloween. They wear their contempt for Halloweenophiles like a badge of honor. I don't dress up for Halloween because I am a grown-ass man. Yeah, and you sound like you're probably a miserable son of a bitch, too. Who the hell are you to take a whiz on everybody else's candy? Let people have fun. Everyone should get at least one night to just play and leave the real world behind. That's why I get kind of irritated when people try to moralize or use political imagery in a haunt or display. All year long, we're inundated constantly with politics and with people trying to shove their values down everyone else's throats. Give it a rest already and just let people get away from all that. As a haunter, you're building a dark little world where people can escape the real one and forget themselves and their concerns, even if just for a few minutes. Good on you. You made a tiny little corner of the world a better place for a while. Most people really appreciate creativity, and when someone goes the extra mile to create a great display or even a walk-through world, they get a charge out of that. In our modern world, so much of what we experience is mass-produced for a consumer market, and very little personal expression comes through. Yes, the ways we dress and decorate our surroundings are a form of expression, but how much personality is really shown? I've always found it somewhat ironic that fashion is used as a tool of personal expression, when, pretty much by definition, fashion is basically what everyone else is wearing right now. Is something out of fashion? Then you'll be criticized or ridiculed by the fashionable for wearing it. So to stay on their good side, you'll wear what they're wearing. Doesn't say much about personal expression to me, unless you're expressing to the world that you're no different from anyone else. I'm certainly no fashion plate. When people have razzed me for wearing something they consider outdated, I simply say, fashion is just a crutch for people who lack style. And look around at the average neighborhood. There's a few different styles of houses and lawn layouts, but they're basically just templates. And God help you if you live in a neighborhood with an HOA where individuality is practically criminalized. But the haunt world, there's a break from the routine. The props and set pieces are, if not created, at least chosen and arranged by the individual haunter in step with the vision they themselves see in their own mind. No two will be exactly alike. And if you do make your own pieces, so much the better. People will see things that they won't see anywhere else. And they know that time and effort went into it, especially if they're locals who have watched the haunt get built up over several days or even weeks, and the average person will just think that's really cool of you to do that, and they'll appreciate your imagination. That's something common for displays and walk-through haunts alike. It doesn't have to be interactive or completely immersive for people to appreciate the creativity and style. If you have a fence separating your elaborate graveyard display from the sidewalk, people will stand outside the fence and look at the pieces, reading the stones and checking out the details. That's one advantage, by the way, of static displays above walk-through haunts. Careful attention to detail won't be lost because people won't have to move past them. They can hang out and take it all in. Design junkies can really shine in building a good static display. That's something I see every year at the Blackford Home Haunt where I play. The cemetery scene in front of the house is separated from the sidewalk by a graveyard fence and pillars, and people would cluster up there just to look at it. Or they'll stand in little groups in the driveway where the queue line forms, without actually getting in line because they want to people watch, especially to catch the reactions of people leaving the haunt. Or to watch the roaming actors, like me, mess with the people in line. If they're locals, which most of them are, they'll hang out waiting for people they know to show up. And they'll stand around talking and laughing and just having a good time. The queue line in front of a pro haunt has a different sort of feel. People paid money to be there. They're waiting for what they paid for. And they may have come from all around the region, so they're basically strangers, and there isn't much interaction between people that didn't travel there together. That's not necessarily the case all the time. It's just an observation I've made at pro haunts I've been to. The home haunt has a different dynamic. The casual, more local nature of it just lends itself to more socializing. Leslie Bannatyne, author of such books as Halloween Nation and Halloween, an American Holiday and American History, has stated that Halloween differs from other holidays because instead of centering around the family, it actually centers around the neighborhood. Kids who never meet the neighbors will meet them at their doorsteps when they're trick-or-treating. Parents accompanying their kids will meet each other at the sidewalk while they wait for the kiddies to come back from the porch, and they may continue along with each other down the block in groups. And of course there's the aforementioned crowds clustering in front of the haunts. The haunt is sort of a neighborhood nexus point, a hub if you will, like a little haunted town square during a mini festival. Drunks and troublemakers aside, of course, they're going to be a problem at any gathering, unfortunately. But there's something to be said for any creative outlet that brings people together in the spirit of fun. And, of course, if someone really wants to bring a tangible contribution to the table, nothing beats a charity. A lot of home haunts integrate a mini food drive into their festivities, collecting canned goods and other such donations for local food pantries and shelters. Of course, to do this properly, one must advertise this in advance, mentioning it in local newspapers and posting advertising flyers in public places like grocery stores, as well as prominently posting a sign in the front yard sometime before the big dance. At the very least, notice should be up during the entire time the haunt is being constructed. Otherwise, no one will know to bring any donations until that night, and few, if any, people will actually leave to go get something and come back. I mean, I know I always carry around an extra can of pork and beans when I go walking around anywhere, but not everyone will be so prepared. Even if you only get a shopping bag or two worth of food donated, your local shelter or pantry will love you for it. And if you have any Jack Chick fundamentalist types in your area that would like to make trouble for you celebrating such an evil holiday, doing your part to charitably feed the hungry and otherwise help the disadvantaged will give you some strong moral leverage in the public eye and make them look callous and out of touch if they choose to harass you. Something to keep in mind. So as we go into crunch time getting that haunt ready for the big dance, take a breather from the building madness from time to time and spend a moment or two looking at the big picture. Not just the haunt itself, not just your vision, but the other side of the equation as well. What do you bring? What do you provide? Chances are, it's more than you think. From the Theater of the Mind, I'm Revenant, and you're listening to Hauntcast. Let the creatures growl and the spirits howl, and when the shadows call, answer them as kindred souls and echo their dark greetings to all who walk in the darkness of this night of nights. Keep that ghost light burning, and above all, happy Halloween. Hauntcast.
For Halloween, Toys R Us doesn't miss a trick, and the prices are a treat. We've got costumes for all Toys R Us kids, even grown-ups, and loads of candy, makeup, masks, and more. Toys R Us will make your Halloween supernatural.
Gosh, Burger Chef, it's Wolfburger the werewolf.
Where can I get delicious burgers? Where can I get fun food? Where, oh where?
At Burger Chef.
Where?
And now at participating Burger Chefs, you can buy fun meals that now come on Halloween magic meal trays. There's a magic trick in each fun meal. There are 10 different magic meal tricks you can collect.
Burger Chef, you're incredible!
You right.
It's
Interviews with haunting gurus.
Bring out your Ted! Bring out your Ted! Hey, for our Sound Spectacular, of course you knew I was going to go for the jugular and bring out the big guns. I've got prop master and YouTube sensation from the Evil Ted Show. It's Evil Ted.
Hey, how you doing, guys? How you doing?
Hey, we're doing fantastic. I'm going to speak for my entire listening audience. So I'm going to say we're all doing amazing. Big fan of your channel, by the way. Went through like a dozen videos over the last day or two just coming up with questions. Back from the beginning, just getting into prop building and that kind of thing. How did you get started?
Okay, it all got started. I'm a little boy from the Midwest. I saw Star Wars at 14 years old. Like most of us in the age of the 70s, was blown away by that film. As a kid, the idea of it was just like, oh my God, it's amazing. And I saw stuff, but back in those days, all the movie traits and secrets and costumes, it was secrets. It was all like behind the screen. It was like magic tricks. Nobody wanted to show you the trick of how things were done. So it was kind of the mystery of Hollywood. And it wasn't until like the 80s, like they started doing like movie magic and behind the scenes stuff, and they started giving a little bit of leak, and then realized that people loved it. People loved seeing how things were done. And when you see something done, it doesn't really destroy the magic. It kind of makes you go, oh, that's how they did it. But as a kid, I wanted to know how that stuff, and there was no books, no classes, no YouTube. We're talking, 1977, and I was just starving for knowledge. And so just trial and error, duct tape and cardboard, paper mache. My first costume was a Darth Vader helmet. I did paper mache and cardboard. And my mom made me the cape. So
that was one of my brother's first. Like, he doesn't do this anymore, but back when we were kids, we used to make paper mache masks because my neighbor taught us how to do it, and we thought that was the most amazing thing ever. And he made a Darth Vader helmet too, which is funny.
Yeah, it's exactly, and it's because you can't wrap your head around how to do that dome. Like, oh, we didn't just do it with paper mache, so I did that, and it wasn't until years and years later that I finally got ambitious enough to move out to California at age 25. Just packed up my life in a U-Haul truck and drove out and started knocking on doors, going, "Hey, mister, I like to make stuff."
And so somebody obviously gave you a shot and said, come on in here, kid. We'll throw you a couple of dollars and you can sweep the shop and we'll teach you a few things.
That was the funny thing about it was I had a job in St. Louis. I worked in this photography company, and I was part of quality control. I had a cubicle and a box, in and out basket, just like all the TV shows. And I was there for a while, and I was making, I think, $7.50 an hour. And back in St. Louis in the 80s, that was that's a pretty good Humpty paycheck, and you could get your own apartment. Because my apartment I was living in was $310 a month, or like $310 for this giant studio apartment. I lived in South City. So when I moved out to California, I was just like, woohoo, I'm so excited. And the guy turned to me and goes, "What's your day rate?" "Excuse me? What's your day rate?" I'm like, he goes, "What do you get paid an hour?" I'm like, "Oh, 10. The guy looked at me and goes, $10 an hour? I'm like, "You're hired."
You're like, damn it, I should have said 20.
Exactly. It's like immediately, he was like, "You're hired." So, and it took me a while to learn that I did have value, because you're just so young and ambitious and happy to be working, that I worked at that rate for a really long time, just happy to be working. So getting paid to do what you love, like, it's awesome. But then I realized I wasn't living in St. Louis, I was living in California, and everything was different and everything was higher. So I eventually adapted, but yeah, just the whole learning how to, you live like a gypsy, you work, you make money, and then when the show is over, you're like unemployed, you're an independent contractor. So when you do a job, and when the job's over, you're like, what? So you had a little bit of money and you were coasting, but you're immediately looking for another job. That's how it all started.
Yeah. So what was the first kind of solid gig that you got?
Oh my God. It was a made-for-TV movie called Miracle Landing. It was about the Aloha tragedy. An airplane actually took off, and a commercial airline up, and the top of the plane peeled open like a banana peel, just went, and it only took out one life. There was a flight attendant was standing. It took her out, but everybody else was still strapped in their seats. So the pilot did his emergency descent. He dropped the plane quickly into the altitude where people could breathe, and he held the plane together until he landed. And everybody stayed alive. They only had one fatality. It became this huge story. So, of course, that was the era of like, we got to make this into a movie. So they did. It was made for television. And that was my first gig. I did miniatures. We did model planes. We built the cockpit of the airplane. And yeah, it was great. That was my first gig.
Now, you've worked on some major motion pictures over the last few years.
Yes.
You worked on The Hunger Games, Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Trek. You worked on The Walking Dead.
Yes, we did props for that. It was the first couple of seasons. And my big claim to fame was Michonne's sword. They brought, we had these prop ones with sharp ones, aluminum ones, and rubber ones. And my boss was all about, we had to wrap the handles. So that I had to wrap them all with white leather because Michonne had that like white signature leather handle on her sword. So we made those, and rubber hammers, rubber axes, all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun. We did that. But yeah, my big claim to fame, my favorite one was the Star Trek Into Darkness, where I had to make Khan's giant like laser gun and this big giant cannon he ran around. And a lot of people are always like, what? When you watch the film, it's on screen for 5 seconds. It's ridiculous. I spent weeks and weeks building this thing, and it was like, I was so excited to work on it. And so I went to the theater to see it, and like he jumps around, and as soon as they got to push him for a close-up, he drops it. He goes, bloop, just drops it. So
life is full of disappointments.
Yeah, no, it's just funny.
Sucks because you probably all the work you put into it. Did you construct that similar to some of the tutorials that you do with the EVA foam? Was that somewhat similar?
That was one of the few things that I worked at this company called HPR. It was Hand Prop Room, and they're a great prop house here in Los Angeles. And I was a contractor. I was hired and worked. I was a hired gun. I worked with those guys for quite some time, and they made this one out of aluminum, a solid aluminum that weighed a ton. And the stunt guys were like, oh, we got to jump around and swing it. And I was like, they're not going to be able to swing this giant aluminum thing. So I went to my boss and pitched to him, like, you should foam fabricate that. He's like, it needs to look good, though, Ted. I'm like, really? Really? We're going to have this conversation? I said, it'll look good. Trust me. So back and forth for a while, they let me do it. I did it, and it turned out great. It looked so nice that my boss was like, you know something? Make 2 more. So I did. I ended up making 2 more of those. So, and again, it's on the screen for 2 seconds.
How long have you been running the YouTube channel?
Oh my God, it's almost, I think 3 years. 3 years going on 4 years, and it was something that was kind of a happy accident. I was doing the work, doing the prop house, and and it was a good steady gig and making money. But the one thing about the job, like any job you love doing, over time it does get exhausting, because the trick I found out to not just this prop house, to every effect shop you work at, is you crank this stuff out quickly. You make it good and make it fast. The quicker you turn it out, the faster they can turn it around and make money. And so we would bid on these things and crank them out fast and make them good but fast. And so I would show up to work from like 7 to 4, and sometimes a little bit overtime, but very rarely. And you would just, like a factory, from the time I came in, I would come to that door and they go, oh, we need this by Wednesday, this is going to be Thursday, this plays tomorrow, this isn't played till next week. And so you're juggling all these jobs at the same time, and it was fun, but it was exhausting. And so sometimes we'd have a little time off, and in the time off, I thought, I'll just do a little fun tutorial. I was seeing these kids doing the cosplay stuff in the early days on MySpace, and they were using like hot glue, and I thought, there's a stuff called large cement and these other techniques I've learned over the years. So I just thought I'd make a couple of fun videos, and it really took off. And then people kept asking for more. And I'm like, okay. So I'd do them on the weekends and as a side thing. And then it just kind of like started becoming more and more lucrative and having more fun doing it. I thought, something, I just want to do this full time. So I took the leap and took a little hiatus from work and just started cranking on videos.
So this is your full-time gig now?
It is, yes. It's I do my videos, and I also do a live stream on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith. I stream every Monday and Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And what's cool about the Twitch thing is I started doing that because it forces me every week to make something. Like you have to do, like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't know. I better come up with something. So I started doing that, and then taking those live streams and cutting them down and putting them onto YouTube. And it's been fun like that for a while, but I realized I'm going to try to get back to the basics of what I used to do, like just doing videos on one subject matter, like gluing or cutting. And there's one thing people have been asking me a lot. I've been getting a lot of questions, so I'm eventually just going to make a video like the top, for all the newbies out there starting up, like what are the top five or top 10 tools you need to get into costume building? I thought that's a really great question, so I'm going to start working on that and making a video just to like my top favorite tools to start with.
I'm so glad you led right into it, because that was going to be my next question. Is why don't you indulge us with the basic tools of the trade, some of the must-haves to get started in costume building, and some prop building, like with the guns and battle axes and things like that.
Yeah, it's I have some patterns on my store. I have the war axe, the iron war axe, I think from Skyrim. I have the Inquisitor helmet from Dragon Age, and that's free on my website. You guys can go and click on it free. And I have videos you can follow along because it shows you step by step. But when you go to watch these videos, the thing I recommend, you get a box cutter or a mat, like a big telescoping, like big mat knives. The ones blades come out. They're really inexpensive. You get that and the sharpeners. This company called Crenshaw. They make these sharpeners, and that's the key, because when you cut foam with a knife, it's super sharp, and then foam dulls it almost instantly. It's like when you can still cut your finger with it, but for some reason, cutting foam just dulls it. So the trick to all these nice cuts is keeping the blades sharp. And if you buy new blades, it gets expensive, so you just get a sharpener, so you can resharpen your same blade over and over again. So that was a number 2 rule. The number 2 right there is the sharp knife, box cutter knife, a blade sharpener, and then you get a cutting mat, so you something to cut on. Because I find the cutting mat helps the blade stay. It doesn't wear the tip down so much because it's a self-healing mat. And once you get that, I recommend you can get hot glue, but I recommend to people getting contact adhesive. My favorite one is barge cement. That's kind of an industry standard. But with the barge cement, it's a little expensive for some people. So if you can't get barge, you can still get just good old-fashioned contact cement. You can find just Wellwood makes a good brand of contact adhesive. And what I mean by contact adhesive is you can apply it to both surfaces, do about 2 thin coats, let it semi-dry, and you push them together, and then bam, it sticks.
Yeah, now with the barge, you don't have to do that. You don't have to let it almost dry, and you don't necessarily have to put it on both surfaces for it to stick?
Nope. It works the same way.
Oh, it does?
It does. It works the same way. What makes barge so great is just it's super strong. A lot of people use it for leatherworking. Barge was kind of invented for putting soles of shoes on, like for putting leather to soles and stuff like that. You put them really thin, and you basically stick them together, and they stitch the edges. Like that's what they use for putting soles to shoes. Barge. And as I started working in the industry, in the movie industry, that's what everybody uses. And I just got turned on to it. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff's amazing. So, yes.
What would be the next?
There's cutting tools, and I like sharp knives for small cutting, circles and round, cutting like little round curves and stuff like that. Get an X-Acto blade, like an X-Acto knife and X-Acto blade. Those are great too. Those are great knives to have. The sharpener that, and the I have a bandsaw. If you want to really get into heavy building and do a lot of cutting, bandsaw. But tell you what, let's back up. Before you get a bandsaw, heat gun. A heat gun. Now, the heat guns you can get relatively inexpensive. You can find those online for like $10. And that's great for heating your foam and shaping it, bending it. And also heat seal your foam too before you seal it. Now, sealants, there's so many different brands. There's Quick Seal. For sealing, there's Plastic Dip, Mod Podge, Rubber Latex.
Now, the Quick Seal you use pretty much specifically to fill in the gaps of the seams when you put the two pieces together, right? So it's after it's dried, you need to get that edge off so you can't see the seam, and that's where the Quick Seal comes into play?
Yeah, it is. And also what makes Quick Seal so great is it's non-toxic and it's acrylic-based. So you can just spatula it on, and I use it for really small seams or little bubbles or holes. And I always sometimes if your gap is too big, you go over it, let it dry a little bit. You'll find the Quick Seal shrinks, So I usually put it on and hit it with a hairdryer, and when it shrinks, I just apply a couple more coats. So, because if it's a big deep hole and you want to fill it in, it's going to take more than a couple of coats. But just do one, let it dry, and then apply another. That's one of my tricks for that.
Like I say, there's several different products to seal the foam after you've already heat sealed it, and you're going to spray it with a coating, kind of seal the whole thing.
Right.
Do you not use balloon rubber anymore? I remember I watched a video of yours. I actually did it. It worked fine. But then I think I messaged you, and you said, "Oh, I don't even use that stuff anymore. I'm using something else." And I don't remember.
There's a company. Yeah, it's basically the company. They end up changing. There's a different formula they carry now. It's a different name. Polytech makes it, but it's called Polylatex 60, and they end up changing the mixture, so they gave it a different name, which I got to do some research on that now. It still works. They have something else that's a different name, but it's still basically the same thing. What it is, it's latex in a paste. It comes in a thick paste. You take it, you add it to you thin it down with distilled water, make it nice and creamy. You can add colors to it. And what makes it so amazing is that when you spray it under your foam, I usually put like contact adhesive glue under my foams to help the latex bite to it, but you don't have to do it with this stuff. And when you spray it and it dries, you can spray on top of it and it sticks. Latex will not stick to itself once it's dry. Once latex dries, you try to put latex on top of latex, it just peels off. With the Polylatex 60 product, you can spray multiple coats and it just builds up and builds up, and it's vulcanized rubber. So when it dries, it's really tough. And I got turned on that stuff. That's what they use in England for a lot of LARPing costumes. They have something very similar to it. They call it something different. But I got turned on, and ever since then, like, oh my God, it's amazing. So again, that's on my list. I'm making a video on that. But good thing I haven't done it yet, because it turned out they just changed the brand name. So I got to get the new brand name and do a video for that as well.
Now, what is the Creature Cast? How does that different from the Polylatex 60?
Creature Cast is a neoprene rubber. It's not actually rubber latex, it's neoprene, so it's non-latex. So what's a plus about that is a lot of people, which I'm starting to more discover, some people are allergic to rubber, like rubber latex. Some people get rashes from them, they get allergic reaction to it. So for the people who are, I get a lot of people writing to me saying, well, I love it, but I'm allergic to latex. Then I would say use Creature Cast. Creature Cast is the bomb. It's liquid neoprene. It's a guy in Portland who makes it himself. It's a small business, and he sells them in gallon kits, and you can get different rigidities and different, get it clear, you can get it black, and there's different thicknesses. I get the semi-rigid, and you can brush it on. I have a couple of videos where I did it with my my Viking helmet and my spiky shoulder pieces. I just brush it on. I do about 2 coats, and it just dries the next day, and you're ready to paint. And it takes paint really well, too. It's great stuff.
Awesome. Any other benefits from the Creature Cast over the Polylatex? If the allergy is not a problem, if you're not allergic to latex, which one would you use? Does it matter on the material?
They both, because the one thing about Creature Cast I really like over Polylatex 60 is that I like Polylatex 60 if I'm doing large areas. Like if I'm doing a costume, like a helmet or a suit or forearm, like doing a full suit, I'll coat it with the Polylatex 60 rubber because I'm just more familiar with it. I like it. I need to experiment more with Creature Cast because it's mortar thin. So when you spray it, you have to do a lot of thin coats. But he does sell a thickening agent you can add to the Creature Cast to make it thicker. But Creature Cast I like because you can just brush it on. So like small hand props or little small pieces or helmets, or I've always, like the last, I did the pulse rifle from Aliens. I ended up just doing that with Creature Cast. I just did a brush coat, like 2 brush coats, and then took it outside and sprayed the rest of the coats on there. And it just went perfectly. It went really fast too, so.
Another thing you've turned me on to is the critter gun, which I find is like the greatest thing ever. And I had never come across the critter gun, and the being able to use the mason jars, the ball mason jars, and be able to just, after you're done, you can save whatever color you mixed. Especially, I used some of that balloon rubber, so I had mixed the color and got the color pretty much spot on, and it was just great being able to take the unused portion of that, screw the cap on the mason jar, put the jar away, and save that for another time, and you could just screw another jar in, pour some more paint in, start another project. I just never came across them. I absolutely love them. I'm telling everybody about them now.
Yeah. The critter, what happened was the critter guns got really expensive. When I bought them, they were like $35, and now they're like up to $55. Like they're ridiculously expensive. So I always tell people the cheaper alternative to the critter gun is called the siphon gun. There's a siphon gun, which the only difference is the jar, I think, is plastic and not glass. And there's some plastic parts on it, but it still works relatively the same. It's a little cheaper. But if people are on a budget, you can definitely look for the siphon gun.
And you could buy additional plastic jars to go containers to go with it. Okay.
And I think I haven't bought one yet, but I should buy one. I was going to buy the siphon one to see if you could replace the plastic jar with a mason jar and make sure to see if the thread of the lid was the same. So.
Oh, how about EVA foam? Different types of foams that you use for one project over another.
Yeah, I always found that when I start off in the beginning, I just use the format foams because they're readily available. They're great. And it turns out that Home Depot and other stores have stopped carrying it. Like they don't carry it in the stores anymore. They only sell it online. And I found over time the quality of the foam is becoming less and less. Like it used to be really dense and thick gray mats. And the reason I know this is because I have old ones. I had a bunch I bought like years ago, and I still have them. And I bought some new ones, and they're same company, same packaging, but the quality of the foam is different. It's softer. It's got more imperfections. It's got bubbles in it. So I found that if you're making a medieval costume, it doesn't have to be perfect. But for EVA foam, my favorite is this company, TNT Cosplay Supply. They basically make EVA foam, but their foam is like super dense and high quality and virtually no bubbles, and it's smooth on both sides. So you don't have to worry about the textured side. And sometimes if you're doing with a costume, it doesn't really matter, but sometimes you want to have something smooth on both sides. So I've been buying my foam getting my foam from TNT Cosplay Supply. Those guys have been great.
How does that compare in price from picking up the floor mats?
Not much. It's like the floor mats are cheap. There's a reason why they're cheap. It's because of the quality. And if you're doing something like LARPing or something like that, you definitely use the floor mat foam. When you start making, oh my goodness, hold on. I love her, and she's crazy. Okay, but just the quality. It's like it's just there's a certain say you get what you pay for. What I've done is if you're making costumes and you want something to be really nice and perfect, I do all the experimenting and pattern making with my gray foam, and then once I get all that worked out, then I just remake it again. Like if I get the pattern figured out what I want to do, like okay, I got this figured out now. Like I did my Vampire Hunter D costume. I did a prototype in the gray foam, and once I got it figured out, I remade it with the EVA foam from TNT, and it was 100% better. It was really nice altogether.
Now, are there what like millimeters do you typically like to work with? Like the thicknesses of the...
Yeah, that varies. Like I always tell people, when you're doing helmets and armor, it's always half inch, or better yet, with TNT, it's 10 millimeter. That's the basic armor thickness. When you start getting into details and thinner things, or form-fitting helmets or something, like you can go like 6 millimeter, 4 millimeter. And for props, you definitely want to get all different kinds of thicknesses. But yeah, for an overall costume, I always use half inch or 10 millimeter.
I have another note here about Mod Podge. What are you using that for? And what instances do you?
Mod Podge, it's just another form of sealing foam. When I started off, I wanted to teach everybody different avenues and things, because a lot of people are on a budget when they're making costumes. Now, if you're doing something small like a handheld prop or just a helmet, you just go to your local craft store and you can pick up everything you need just to do everything. It's Mod Podge is just another form of sealing. Some people like using PVA glue. There's all different forms of way of sealing things. And I liked Mod Podge because I would just brush it on the foam and it would soak in. And I'd always do that first before I put any plastic coat or anything on it. So it's just another form, just another inexpensive way of sealing foam.
There is Plasti Dip that you also use to coat the foam.
Yes.
Right. Any instances do you use that over something else?
I don't. Plasti Dip is kind of a go-to, something quick. If you have to do something fast and quick, or most kids out there experience the con crunch, like, oh my God, it's just a quick fix. It's a great way to go. Something you can buy it. And the cool thing with Plasti Dip now is that you get multiple colors. So if you're doing something, you can get different colors. And I'm not kidding, they have a rainbow. If you go to their website and select their colors, it's crazy the amount of colors they have. Turquoise and blue, and it's like they have just a number of colors.
Nice.
So it's just a quick fix. If I have more time, I usually just do my either Creature Cast or my Polylatex 60 rubber.
Any quick painting techniques that you can throw at us? Anything simple?
Yes, acrylic. There's this company that sells paint, aerosol cans, and it's called Montana. And Montana makes acrylic paint in spray cans. So it's actually acrylic paint in a spray can. So you can lay on color, and when you're spraying usually out of cans, it's enamel paint. Enamel paint, when it dries, is rigid, it's hard, and it cracks. When just looking at it, it'll crack off. It's hard. So the cool thing with Montana is actually acrylic paint in a spray can, and it's used for graffiti artists. Love it because of just the array of colors and the durability of it.
Other than that, what other types of paint? Any other type of paint you like to go for? Or
there's the acrylic paints. There's Cratex is a great company, and Nova Colors are two of my favorite companies that sell acrylic paints, and I buy those for acrylic for large, but if you're painting something large, majority of something of a prop or a gun, using acrylic as a base. And for the detail work, I love using Tamiya. Tamiya is a Japanese model paint. It comes in jars, and that's acrylic based as well. And you thin that stuff down with lacquer or denatured alcohol. Just thin it down, shoot it through an airbrush. That stuff works great through an airbrush.
How about little safety tips?
Yes.
I know the kids need to be safe out there.
Yes, it is. When you're airbrushing with acrylic paints, I always use a particle mask. Guys, there's a really great one called the company that makes them. They're like neoprene mask, and I think they're called RESP20 or SO. It's a mask. It's a company. Matter of fact, go to my website, eviltedsmith.com, and where it says particle mask, click on the link. That's where you can find them. I love them because they're just neoprene rubber, but they're made for athletes and cyclists and people who ride bicycles in the city where there's a lot of smog and grime and dust on the streets, so they don't breathe it. And they're just these nice, and when you wear them, they don't feel like those cheap paper ones you wear at Home Depot that cut into your face.
Mm-hmm.
I hate those things. These guys are great. So when you're just working with foam, grinding dust, or spray painting with large particle, it's just wearing a particle mask. Definitely recommend that. And when you're cutting, goggles, when you're using a Dremel. But it's mostly dust. And
then there's the other, the heavy-duty respirator, which is a charcoal respirator?
Yes,
is that right?
That's when you're working with really toxic stuff, like barge cement. If you're working with barge cement or contact adhesive in a garage or somewhere kind of closed off, you want to make sure you have an airflow coming in through your house and have a fan blowing in your face. But if you're in somewhere in a closed environment, definitely wear a mask with that stuff because the vapor content is really strong and super toxic. There's a reason why it's so strong is because it's so deadly.
I love your alien egg costume, that kind of gag where you... That thing's amazing. Yeah, there's a company, I don't know if have you ever heard of Transworld, the Haunt and Halloween show? It's in St. Louis every year. It's for all the big haunted attractions and whatnot.
Yes, they have them everywhere now. But they're big. They do one in San Francisco. There's some in Chicago. I always keep hearing about it. And they're big. They're Halloween fairs where people can go and buy all the stuff they need to put on a maze or attractions. You can buy animatronic puppets and walk arounds and all these gags. Yes.
Yeah. Some guy has a couple of props like that for a queue line entertainer that has a box that pops open and this
big
thing pops out of. It's like VFX or
right.
I forget the company.
Is that rig? They got a mirror. It's a mirror on a box.
Yeah.
So it looks like the box is empty, so you don't see it. Why is this guy carrying an empty box? When you get up close to him, he splits the box open, and his head on a spring thing shoots out.
It comes out 3 or 4 feet. It's so great. So, but your prop was just it reminded me of that. I'm like, oh my god, that thing is awesome. So basically, it's a the alien egg, pod egg, and then you have your hand as a glove with a face hugger.
I made a face hugger hand glove thing, and what it is, I had a fake arm holding the egg, so it looked like my arm was holding this egg, and it all flashes back to a character I saw in the 70s when I was a kid, and it was this guy with this giant emu, and he had a basically this big emo pup, big like emu, his Australian outback costume, and this big. And what it was he was just basically the head of the animal was his hand, and he had this fake arm holding this bird body, this fake bird body, and this bird, it would attack people, but it was his hand. But when I was a kid, you ate it hook, line, and sinker. You just loved it. It was so damn funny. I'm like, oh my God, it's genius. And I don't know why it popped in my head, but I was like, I wanted to do something for Dragon Con. It was my first Dragon Con. But I wanted something comfortable but funny. And when I came up with the idea, I'm like, oh my God, that's it. And I don't know if I pitched it to my buddy Bill Duran, and Bill just laughed and said, oh my God, that's got Dragon Con written all over it. So it was a big hit. And I'm going to reprise that costume again for BlizzCon this year. I'm going to take it to BlizzCon.
Awesome. Now, Bill, you're good friends with Bill Duran from Punish Props?
Yes, sir. He's been my inspiration. He's a nice guy. And when I started, people kept tagging me with him. I'm like, who's this Bill guy? Thank you, Ted and Bill. Thank you, Ted. And I got tagged a lot in Twitter and Instagram and stuff. I was like, and finally I met Bill. Like, hi. And so we sat down, and Bill just said, look, welcome to my world. Like, if you really want to do this, here's the things you have to do. And he gave me a list of things to do, and I've been doing them. And I have to say, Bill is the reason why I'm here today. He just got me up to speed. And in a lot of ways, I'm kind of adapting right now because I just got engaged and I have a family I'm getting right now. So I'm kind of rescheduling my streams and my builds and trying to get my stuff all caught up. But he's been a great inspiration, making me help me run this into a steady business.
Cool. Hey, before we wrap up, any other last minute just quick tips, techniques, words of wisdom from Evil Ted?
Yes, I do. I have some words of wisdom. There's a word going around I hear a lot, and it's called failing. And people always associate it with something bad. I'm going to tell you people right now, failing is not bad. Failing is learning. So when you start building something, you're a little intimidated. Like these people that write to me and go, oh, well, I'm not really good at this. Hey Ted, how much would you charge me to make something, for me? I'm like, no, you guys don't understand that. I'm not in this to make things for other people. I'm going to teach you how to do it. And here's the thing. When you go into something, know this for a fact. It's not going to turn out perfect. And that's all right, because it doesn't have to be perfect. But I guarantee this. When you make something, it doesn't turn out. The second thing you make will be better. And then you think that's crazy. The third thing you make is better. And then after that, the fourth, and so on and so on. The more you build, the better you get. And then I recommend keep the first thing you make. Keep it, put it on the shelf. And then within a month or 2 weeks, look at something and go, holy crap, I'm so much better than where I was when I started. So when you start off, talent is, I always tell people, talent can be taught. Passion cannot. If you have the passion to make something, you can do it. Stick to it. I know so many people who build something and kind of get frustrated, and they just kind of throw everything up and go, I'm out. And that person is never going to get anywhere, never going to succeed. You have to fail in order to learn. So let's replace the word with failing with learning. So no more failing, learning. That thing was put in you in school. So now it's learning. So if something doesn't work out, big deal, on to the next. You will get better. Stick to it, people. And it's foam. It's cheap. It's easy. It's readily available. You will get better. Stick to it. That is my advice.
Beautiful. Why don't you plug your website? I know you have you have some free templates there, but free patterns.
Yes, I do. It's guys, go to my website, eviltedsmith.com. I have the TV show Voltron, which I'm a big fan of. I have the Paladin helmet. That's free. You can also get the War Axe from Skyrim. I think it's Skyrim. And then there's War Axe, and then you have the Inquisitor helmet from Dragon Age. That's free. They're great patterns. Are basically, and I have videos in each one on step-by-step on how to work with the foam. And once you watch one of those videos and you make something, you'll be like, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't that hard. And it isn't. It's just, it'll be like a drug addiction. Like, oh my God, I built this. Now I can't wait to build more.
How often are you putting out videos right now?
I had them once a week, but I've been kind of adjusting to my schedule right now, readjusting. I have some videos piling up, but I try to get one up every other week.
Your live, I'll plug your live stream again.
Oh, yes, guys, that's twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith. I stream every Monday and Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Times, and it's a blast. All the creative people in the chat are great. And matter of fact, people, if you're new, I just recently started a Facebook group called Evil Ted's Foam Fanatics. It's just a great creative group because I streamed on Twitch, and when I wasn't streaming, there's all these great talented people not talking to each other. So I figured I'd start a Facebook group. In the Facebook group, if you're a newbie, you can come in, share your work, you have questions, want to learn about techniques. Everybody in there all are super friendly, and everybody's just there to help. So if I go through my family about once a week, but if you have a question, or if you're doing a con crunch and you need an answer to a question quickly, you could probably post it in Foam Fanatics and get a response really quick. But all I ask is when you join Foam Fanatics, I have 2 questions you have to answer. Once you answer the 2 questions, you're in. So there you go.
Where else can they connect with you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, you guys go to my website, and I have a contact there as well. You can contact my website. I have a Facebook, the Evil Ted Facebook page. I don't really do much email on that so much, but you guys can post pictures and photos there. You can tag me on Twitter. You can reach out to me on Instagram. On Instagram, it's EvilTed_channel. And Twitter, it's Twitter at EvilTed40. So you guys can follow me on all those social media.
All right, Ted. I really appreciate you taking a couple of minutes.
Oh, thank you. It was fun. I love helping people. This is awesome.
This was great. Hey, we'll catch you on the net. Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Are you satisfied now, you fools?
A big scream out goes out to Jeff Hartz of Buzzworks. We were playing tracks off of his House of Nightmares album. Also get Zombie Influx available at buzz-works.com. Special scream outs go out to all of our Patreon supporters. Wes Campbell, Steve Doleshal, Don Doleshal, Brent Wilson, Ron Knobloch, Roy John Holland, Rob James, Stephen Garrett, Donald Keith, Mark Muncy and Kerry Schultz, Evil Deb, Sudsy, Doug Walker, Greg Wallace, Tim Fowler, Sean Timmons, Doug Kabarak, David Calkins, Jim Bassalone, Joe Hodges, Craig Maines, Mark Peters, Kristen Arendt, Russell, Daniel Hoffman, Rich Barron, Rob Sosak, Nelson Barros, John Farmer, Francis Alhouse, Jim Slanker, Devlin Hyde, Donald Powers, Justin Krasdomensky, Michael Head, Lisa Holman, John Francois Pablo, Cindy Noyes, Christopher Reeves, James Shearer, James McLarty, Daniel Wendorf, Scott Santana, Linda Marshall, Mark Constable, Nick Shepard, Chris Caines, Jim Transu, Jules Norcross, Mike Blumhoff, Randy Evland, Teresa Meredith, Jen Daigle, David Marriott, Scott Messinger, Bob Valiancourt, Mariah Bowers, Rudy Inamoto, Robert Cole, Steve Davis, Jason Johnson, Mason Johnson, Barry Woods, Crawford Hampson, Jacob Bowers, Cthulhu's Dream, Casket Repair, Steve, Graham Lenev Painter, David Freeman, Goth Kitty Lady, Matt Merrifield, DG Gothic, Barbara Richards, Victor Ives, Eric Curtis, and David O'Neill. You want to join these cool kids? Well then, head over to patreon.com/Hauntcast and support the Scream Team. As of this recording, the show is just a little over $100 away from our second goal, which is producing a monthly video, either a tutorial or a product review, and also from doing 2 YouTube Hangouts that will be coming up in the near future. Help us make it happen. Come on. Like Hauntcast Radio and join the Hauntcast group on the Evil Book of Faces. Tweet us on Twitter. Give us a quickie on Instagram. And for all of the social media, scroll down to the bottom of our new Hauntcast.net website page, and all the links will be right there.
Hey, Baker, stop picking your butt, as it's now time to pick a winner for that DC Props spitter mechanism.
All right, Scully, dip your little claw into the skull and let's pull out a name.
Tim Fowler.
Tim, message me your shipping information on Facebook at Hauntcast Radio. We'll get that prize out to you with the quickness. Thanks again to long-term show friend Brent Ross from DC Props, a.k.a. DC Design Studios, a.k.a. DC Cemetery, for all the help over the years and donating the prize. If you have a haunt or Halloween-related business and you'd like to gain some exposure without dropping trowel, contact us at baker@hauntcast.net or at chris@hauntcast.net, or hit me up on Facebook under Hauntcast Radio or Chris Baker. As you guys visit professional haunted attractions and home haunts this October of 2018, don't submit anything in April if you're listening to this next year. Anyway, if you are so inclined, do a positive review on anything that you find that you like based on actors, props, scenery, or anything else, any other cool experience you had at the haunt, and send it in. If you submit it, we'll put it on our next episode. It seriously can be about 2 minutes long, as I'm going to edit a bunch of these together and try to make it into a segment. The next Hauntcast debacle, episode, will be airing sometime in December. I'll have a date for you sometime by the end of November. And as for all you extremely loyal Patreon backers who've stepped up to help bring Hauntcast back every other month, if you've opted into certain levels, then you are owed some gifts that will be coming out in November. With putting up the new website and that whole fiasco of bouncing from one server to another, then only to switch everything over and dump WordPress and do Squarespace and everything. Oh my God. That, putting up my haunt and everything else, I have not had time to get all that done. I did email people through Patreon. I hope you got that message. But any presents or gifts like t-shirts, coffee mugs, anything that's owed will go out in November. I will send emails to people again to remind them to give me their shipping address so we can make that happen. If you haven't stepped up, awesome. Jump in there. Become one of the cool kids and gain the love and admiration of Scully.
Me love you long time.
All right, enough is enough. Let's wrap this thing up. Wherever you guys are listening to this show, whether you're driving to work, you're in your cubicle, you're in your haunts, in your shops, in your garage, in your basement, getting your haunt on. Oh yeah, baby. I just want to say, from the bottom of my darkened, blackened, filthy, smoke-filled heart, have a horrific Halloween. As for now, the dungeon is closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast.
But I can't leave them, I can't. Yes, go. You live.
I'm going now. Heaven help you.